subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
All go to the 11th Division, and the 4th Division members go to heal the wounded. The Shinigami who came here with Kayaraka Shunsui got the task, and went to help one after another. With the help of Kayaraka Shunsui, the virtual group that invaded the Soul Society was quickly eliminated. Captain of the Beijing Band, thank you for your support. At the end of the battle, some uninjured team members went to clean up the mess and tidy up the battlefield. Gosuke Shigure, the vice-captain of the 11th team, came to Kayaraka Shunsui and thanked him. Kayaraka Shunsui smiled and said, "It's nothing. Even without my support, Gosuke and your strength are enough to deal with this matter." Having said that, on the battlefield, the situation is changing rapidly. No one can tell whether something unexpected will happen in the next moment, isn't it? It's better to have support than to have no support. Gosuke Shigure's words sounded, and Kayaraka Shunsui couldn't help but froze. He didn't expect that Gosuke Shigure actually thought of going with him. He was worried that an accident might happen, so he rushed here to help. He didn't know that when Gosuke Shigure said such words, he was thinking of his previous life. It was because he didn't expect the accident that happened in the next moment that the car overturned and died just now. Therefore, after reliving the first life, Gosuke Shigure is much more stable and cautious than in the previous life. After flashing thoughts in his mind for a while, Kayaraka Shunsui said to Gosuke Shigure, "Gosuke, under your leadership, the 11th Division once again repelled the invasion of Minos Grande. In order to celebrate the victory of the battle, you are not prepared to have a drinking party? Gosuke Shigure hasn't answered yet. After hearing this, the chief officer of the 11th team nearby immediately raised his hands in agreement. It's good to have a drinking party. It just so happens that the colleagues from the 8th Division and the 4th Division are also there, and they happen to be drinking together, and it's lively." Yes, that's right. Many senior officers of the 11th Squad expressed their opinions one after another, and they all agreed to hold an open-air reception here to celebrate the victory of the battle. They didn't take Gosuke Shigure's decision seriously. Before Gosuke Shigure could give an answer, they even chose who would buy the alcohol. In this way, an open-air reception was held here. The members of the 11th Squad chatted with the Shinigami of the 8th and 4th Squads with laughter, celebrating the victory of this battle wantonly. There are also some players who were drinking alone. While drinking, they couldn't help feeling a little emotional. How similar this situation is. When Kenpachi was there, every time the war ended, a reception would be held on the battlefield to celebrate the victory. It was also at a reception that Mole City Kenpachi approached him to challenge Tashiyashiki, and after that, Mole City became the new Kenpachi. After serving as Kenpachi in Mole City, because of his personality, the 11th team never held a reception again. Unexpectedly, today, they once again drank wine on the wilderness battlefield like before. Some Shinigami from the 11th team were drinking, and the corners of his eyes could not help but tears. And then he quickly wiped it off, fearing that others would see it. In fact, there are more than 111 Shinigami. Many female Shinigami of the 4th team are also quite emotional. Among the Godei 13, the 4th team has the best relationship with the 11th team. The relationship between them is that of doctor and patient. The Shinigami who healed the most from the 4th Squad was the Shinigami from the 11th Squad. When Katsuyashi was there, the two teams had a lot of contact. He was an old pervert. Not only did he recruit a lot of female players in his own team, but he also hooked up with girls from the 4th team and died in Katsuyashi. In the end, there were really many girls from the 4th Division who were sad. Although Takayashiki looks ugly, but he can't stand him strong. It is the nature of many people to love the strong. Gosuke, you drink too. Kayaraka Shunsui held a bowl of wine and motioned for Gosuke Shigure to drink too. Gosuke Shigure smiled, picked up the wine bowl, and took a sip. Seeing that Gosuke Shigure is so witty, Kayaraka Shunsui also smiled and immediately said something. "By the way, Gosuke, you should be ready during this time." Gosuke was stunned when he heard this. Kayaraka Shunsui, you better explain to me what is going on. No way. Who told Gosuke Shigure to subconsciously think of something bad when he heard this? At the beginning, Kayaraka Shunsui said something similar to him. Then he was approached by Xing Jun, first one as Central 46, was judged by the group of nobles, and then locked in the Palace of Repentance, stayed in the Confession Palace for a while. Chapter 26, Why Can't Kenpachi Be You? Kairaka Shunsui felt the unkind gaze of Gosuke Shigure. I froze for a moment, not understanding why Gosuke Shigure saw himself like this. But he still explained the reason to Gosuke Shigure. Earlier today, in the first team, a captain meeting was held. Regarding the replacement of the captain of the fifth team, Hirako Shinji, the deputy captain of the fifth team, passed the captain's assessment and officially became the new captain of the fifth team. It won't be long. You should know this too. The replacement of the captain is not a secret. So Kairaka Shunsui directly talked about the contents of the captain meeting. After this incident, Old Man Sean talked about the 11th team again. I don't know how the captain will feel when he hears Kairaka Shuinsue's address. In the first room of the team, in front of many captains, he calls Yamamoto the captain, but in private, he directly calls him Old Man Sean. The 11th team is a fighting team with heavy responsibilities. The position of Kenpachi cannot be vacant for a long time. Because Kenpachi in Mole City was imprisoned, Old Man Sean was going to select a strong man to be the new Kenpachi. He asked the captains to recommend suitable candidates. Oh. Gosuke Shigure looked at Kairaka Shunsui curiously, wanting to know which one he recommended. If you really recommend a strong person and you can check in under the opponent's hand, that's pretty good. Although I said something like becoming a Kenpachi in front of the members of the 11th team that day, it was just seeing the low morale of the 11th team and trying to boost their morale. It's a pity that he still underestimated his image in the minds of the members of the 11th team after all, and those serious words were finally treated as a joke. I recommend you. Kairaka Shunsui said very seriously. Gosuke Shigure was silent for a long time, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Is the leader of the Beijing band joking with me? What do you think? I think you're just joking. After all, the Beijing band is not handsome, and they are dissolute and flamboyant. No matter how you look at it, they are people who like to joke. On the contrary, if this is the case, if it is Captain Jushiro, I am willing to believe it. Kairaka Shunsui immediately became a little displeased. Hey, in your mind, am I this kind of person? If you say it, it makes me feel too uncomfortable. Fortunately, we are old friends, and I have come to help you many times. Also, let me tell you, Jushiro is not as good as you think. He has a dark heart. I have known him for so many years, and I know him very well. Gosuke Shigure laughed without saying a word. Kairaku Shunsui gradually became serious after explaining the big deal with Gosuke Shigure. Maybe I left you with some bad impressions in the past, which led to a wrong understanding of me, but I want to say the thing is, this one is no joke. I really recommended you. And the other captains also agreed with my recommendation. Gosuke Shigure raised his eyebrows, then stretched them again. Why me? Why can't it be you? Kairaka Shunsui said to Gosuke Shigure's curious gaze. If Team 11 needs a captain and Godai 13 needs a new Kenpachi, why can't this person be you? First of all, you are the vice captain of the 11th team. You know the situation of the 11th team best. The members of the 11th team also respect you. If you are the captain, their morale will not be affected in any way. Influences. Secondly, you have that strength. When the word strength was mentioned, Kairaka Shunsui had a look of amazement in his eyes, and he said seriously, You defeated the Mole City Kenpachi. According to the captain succession rules of the 11th team, when you defeat the Mole City Kenpachi, you will be the new Kenpachi. Gosuke Shigure did not refute this. Of course, he is also aware of the unique captain succession rules of the 11th squad. But even if time is reversed and he does it all over again, he will still choose to defeat the Mole City Kenpachi. Because at that time, he had no choice. In order to keep a secret, Mole City Kenpachi decided to kill him, so he could only fight back. Kairaka Shunsui said again. However, because when you defeated Kenpachi, the Mole City, it was not under the witness of the 200 members of the 11th Division, and there were no other captains as witnesses. Therefore, the captain cannot directly appoint you as the captain of the 11th team. In order to confirm whether you have the qualifications to become the captain, the chief captain decided to conduct a captain assessment on you. I don't think it will take long before the preparations for the assessment will be completed. Before that, you can make some psychological preparations. What a surprise! Gosuke Shigure sighed sincerely. Kairaku Shunsui laughed. Life is like this. You never know what will happen next second. While laughing, he said, however, I still hope that you, Gosuke, can become the new Kenpachi. In you, I see the same characteristics as Takayashiki. You are the new Kenpachi, which is the best result for the entire 11th team. Gosuke Shigure was silent again. Because Gosuke Shigure and Kairaku Shunsui were alone in a remote place when they were drinking, the conversation between them was not very loud, and it would be extremely noisy, so no other team members heard their conversation. I don't know that Gosuke Shigure once defeated Kenpachi, the Mole City, and now the captain has decided to conduct a captain assessment on him. However, Gosuke Shigure's strong strength has impressed many Shinigami of the 11th team very deeply. After all, Gosuke Shigure had easily killed mid-level Minos Grande Ajuches in front of them. Having said that, when Shigure Sasakibe, the deputy captain of the 1st squad, came to the 11th squad and invited the 11th squad vice captain to participate in the captain assessment, many of the 11th squad officers were still shocked. Real or fake? Send Gosuke to the captain's assessment? Are you kidding me? Gosuke can become the captain, and I can also participate in the captain assessment. Who on earth recommended Gosuke? Not everyone can participate in the captain's assessment. Before participating, one needs to be recommended, and the recommender must at least be the captain of Godai 13. The chief executives of the 11th team talked a lot. Hearing these words, Gosuke Shigure glanced back at the crowd and said with a smile, everyone, wait for my good news. Remember, when I come back, you have to call me captain. T-Sich wants to call you captain. Someone immediately complained to Gosuke. Having said that, after Gosuke was taken away by Shigure Sasakibe to take part in the captain's test, although they were curious as to why Gosuke was going to take the captain's test, they still sincerely hoped that Gosuke would pass the test. Chapter 27 Candidates for the Assessment. A team. It is also the head of Godai 13. It is located at the highest point of the entire Godai 13. The entire team is on the mountain. Standing in the captain's room of the 1st team, you can look down on the entire Godai 13. Usually, the captain's meeting is held in the 1st room of the team here. And this time, Gosuke Shigure's captain assessment was also conducted here, under the leadership of Shigure Sasakibe, the vice captain of the 1st team, who is also the oldest vice captain of Godai 13. Gosuke Shigure first came to the general captain's office. The captain sits cross-legged on the ground with a slender Zanpakuto on his lap. This knife is the strongest Zanpakuto in the Heat Department Raijin Jaka. From ancient times to the present, Yamamoto Jinrosai has used this sword to kill countless beings who intend to destroy the balance of the Soul Society, including Hollow, Quincy, and Shinigami. Since Godai 13 was established and the Soul Society became stable and peaceful, most of the time, he disguised this knife as a crutch to hide its true identity. But at this moment, it seems that because of the captain's assessment, he directly let Raijin Jaka appear in his true colors. Captain, brought by Gosuke Shigure. After Shigure Sasakibe came here, he humbly notified the captain. Captain Yamamoto opened and closed his eyes and said calmly, understood, you step back. Yes. Shigure Sasakibe stepped back, leaving Gosuke Shigure alone. Alone with Captain Yamamoto, Gosuke Shigure didn't seem nervous either. After all, they're old friends. Back then, he had a lot of dealings with the old guy named Yamamoto Shigekuni in front of him, and he knew that the other party was not as pedantic and old-fashioned as he seemed on the surface. Shigure Sasakibe changed his name to Yuan Luchai. The current solemnity is nothing but the power gradually accumulated over time. Only those who are really familiar with Captain Yamamoto know that he is a person who is cold on the outside and hot on the inside. Gosuke Shigure. Captain Yamamoto's eyes fell on Gosuke Shigure, who had not spoken. When you came here, you must have known what was going on. The old man will make a long story short. The captain of the 11th team is vacant. Kairaku Shunsui recommended you to the old man, and it also shows that you defeated the Mole City Kenpachi. In order to determine whether you have the qualifications to be the captain and bear the name of Kenpachi, the old man decided to conduct a captain assessment on you. In addition, there is one thing that I need to let you know. Regardless of whether you have passed the captain's assessment or not, The entire process of today's captain's assessment must be kept secret. I see. Gosuke Shigure nodded. Captain Yamamoto didn't say much anymore. He got up and acted vigorously. Come with me. Gosuke Shigure followed closely behind Captain Yamamoto and soon came to a huge training ground. This is the training ground for a team. Right now, in order to conduct the captain assessment for Gosuke Shigure, it is temporarily vacant. When Captain Yamamoto came here with Gosuke Shigure, there were already 2 people waiting here. Waiting here were 2 women. One is a woman with long purple wavy hair and a strong figure. Her appearance is beautiful. Among the many existing female Shinigami in Seriidii, she is also the best, and she is also one of the only 2 female captains. She is the captain of the 12th Division, Hikifien Kiryu. Among the captains of Godii 13, Hikifien Kiryu is considered an old seniority. Although she is a technical talent, her strength is definitely not weak. When Toriyashiki was still alive, when faced with the praise of his subordinates for killing Vasto Lord, he was not complacent, but believed that Hikifien Kiryu could do the same. It can be seen that in his mind, Hikifien Kiryu has a very high evaluation. Apart from Hikifien Kiryu, there is another woman who is not as strong as Hikifien Kiryu. She is dressed very conservatively, with a pair of twisted braids hanging in front of her body deliberately. She looks extremely gentle, but gentleness is just an appearance. If you know that she is the captain who existed at the beginning of Godii 13, you will know how terrifying she is. In the nearly 800 years since Godii 13 was established, an unknown number of powerful captains were born, and then died in battle one after another. It can be said that when a captain can serve in this position for more than 100 years, it is enough to show his strength, and Shinigami, who has been the captain for hundreds of years like a woman, only has one word, which is horror. She is another female captain among Godii 13, Unohana Retsu, captain of the 4th Division, Captain Hikifien, Captain Unohana. After arriving here, Gosuke Shigure greeted the 2 of them. As for Hikifien Kiryu, he had never dealt with him before. But Unohana Retsu is not the case. In her previous life, she has dealt with too much. However, after all, the past is in the past. In this life, he is Gosuke Shigure, and there is no need to dig up old scores. What is gone is already gone. Hikifien Kiryu and Unohana Retsu nodded slightly to Gosuke Shigure. After greeting each other, Captain Yamamoto said, "For the captain's assessment, 3 captains, including the old man, are needed as witnesses. Today, the old man, Captain Unohana, and Captain Hikifien will be your witnesses to conduct the assessment for you." Gosuke Shigure, I hope you don't disappoint me. Gosuke Shigure heard the meaning of expectation in Captain Yamamoto's words. There is no doubt that Captain Yamamoto also hopes that he can pass the assessment and replace Kenpachi Mole City and become the new Kenpachi. Gosuke Shigure didn't say anything. Then he came to the training ground. I really want to know who is going to evaluate me. The 3 captains now seem to be an old man and 2 women. But when it comes to strength, it is definitely not weak, and it is even considered top among the entire Godii 13. The strength of the captain is naturally beyond doubt. Secondly, Kiryu Hikifien and Unohana Retsu seem to be women, but their strength is stronger than many men. In the original book, Hikifien Kiryu was finally promoted to Team 0 and became a member of Team 0. As for Unohana Retsu, he seems to be the captain of the 4th Division, the captain of the medical team, but before becoming the captain of the 4th Division, he has another identity, which is first generation, Kenpachi. So, who will be the one who assesses himself? Gosuke Shigure is more inclined to Hikifien Kiryu, or the captain of Yamamoto. After all, when Unohana Retsu began to transfer to the 4th team, she had gradually restrained her edge and rarely shot. Chapter 28 in the name of Kenpachi, however, even Unohana Retsu has hidden his edge. But because she has been in the position of captain for too long, an inherent impression has been formed in the minds of the captains of Godii 13 that Unohana Retsu is an unfathomable powerhouse. The same is true. Among other things, let's just talk about the 3 people who came to conduct the captain's assessment of Gosuke Shigure today. Without exception, they are all strong. Only the truly strong can conduct the captain assessment on the other Shinigami. Because they are strong enough, because they have many means, enough to fight with ease. If Hitsugaya Chur, who is not very proficient in even his own Bankai in the original book, is allowed to conduct the captain assessment on people, it is obviously not acceptable. Hitsugaya Chur, though mastering Bankai, became the captain. But it is only because he has mastered Bankai that he becomes the captain-level strength. If he wants to measure whether others have the captain-level strength, he is afraid that he will conduct Bankai from the very beginning. Such a forced assessment is obviously against the original intention. Gosuke Shigure waited for a while. Then, an unexpected candidate came out. The other party had a gentle expression, but as she walked in front of Gosuke Shigure, the original gentle expression gradually became serious. Captain Unohana? Gosuke Shigure was a little taken aback. Although he knew that Unohana Retsu was first-generation Kenpachi, but because Unohana Retsu had already turned to the fourth team and hit his edge, Gosuke Shigure never thought that Unohana Retsu would take action to assess himself. This time, Gosuke Shigure guessed wrong. Unohana Retsu looked serious. She said to Gosuke Shigure, "Do you understand the meaning of Kenpachi?" Gosuke Shigure raised his eyebrows, but answered the question anyway. Kenpachi is the title bestowed by the Soul Society on the strongest Shinigami. Unohana Retsu calmly said, "This statement is correct, but not entirely correct. The real meaning of Kenpachi is a swordsman who knows all schools and all sword styles in the world. The so-called 8 means 8,000 styles." She told a secret, but didn't tell Gosuke Shigure that in the past, she had a name which was called 8,000 Ryu. The so-called 8,000 is an imaginary number, referring to infinity and covering everything. Yakianryu means mastering all schools of kendo and all sword styles. "I see," Gosuke Shigure responded. In fact, he already knew what Unohana Retsu said about the 8,000 streams, but Unohana Retsu said so. As a new Shinigami, of course he has to learn how to laugh. In response to Unohana Retsu, Unohana Retsu changed his tone again. "Because I have lived long enough, I can barely be regarded as a grandmaster with a bit of kendo. At the invitation of the captain, I will conduct the captain assessment for you." When she said these words, Unohana Retsu couldn't help but think of what the captain said not long ago when he found her. Originally, she didn't intend to get involved in the captain's assessment. After all, she is no longer first-generation Kenpachi, the murderous Unohana Yichiryu, but Unohana Retsu, the captain of the 4th Division, who is a doctor. But according to the chief captain, Kenpachi in Mole City is now in prison, and the appointment of Kenpachi in the 11th team is unusual, since Kenpachi can only be selected through the captain's assessment. Then he hoped that Unohana Retsu was one of the candidates for the assessment. It would be better for Unohana Retsu to take the shot himself and weigh Gosuke Shigure's strength to determine whether he is capable of carrying the name of Kenpachi. If you don't have enough ability and forcefully become a Kenpachi, it will only bring shame to the name of Kenpachi. It was these words that moved Unohana Retsu. Back then, she chose to retire from the position of Kenpachi because she lost to someone, so she felt that she could no longer bear the name of Kenpachi, and then the name of Kenpachi was handed over to others. From 2nd-generation Kenpachi to Mole City Kenpachi, there have been 7 latecomers bearing the name of Kenpachi. Although these Kenpachi are not the most perfect Kenpachi in Unohana Retsu's mind, but these Kenpachi are stronger than one. None of them tarnish the Kenpachi name. While Unohana Retsu is looking forward to the person who defeated her back then to come to Siriidii and take away the name he should have. On the other hand, he is also looking forward to the birth of a more powerful Kenpachi. Perhaps in the future, there will be a stronger Kenpachi than that person. Or maybe, according to Kayaraka Shunsui, Gosuke Shigure was able to defeat Kenpachi, obviously stronger than Kenpachi. According to the succession rules of the Kenpachi name, Gosuke Shigure is obviously eligible to inherit the Kenpachi name. Of course, the premise is that all this is true. Now, Unohana Retsu is going to put it to the test. "There's Captain Nomo no Hana," Gosuke Shigure said. Then, Unohana Retsu didn't hold back and just pulled out his Zanpakuto. Her body seemed to be as light as nothing, and she flashed past, just a sharp slash towards Gosuke Shigure. There is no need to liberate Zanpakuto, since it is only for the captain's assessment. At the end of the day, her Zanpakuto, other than Bankai, Shurikai aren't good for fighting. However, she is enough to complete this assessment with pure chopping skills, Kid, Baidao, and Shuinpa. Facing this sharp blow from Unohana Retsu, Gosuke Shigure swayed slightly, and with the help of Shuinpa, he easily avoided Unohana Retsu's knife. Then, when Unohana Retsu attacked again, he also drew his Zanpakuto. There is also no liberation of Zanpakuto. However, with a casual strike, a powerful sword pressure was released. Unohana Retsu's eyes lit up. Ryatsu released it, and it was also a sword pressure. Boom! The two silver-white swords collided, creating a huge wave of air that swept around. Captain Yamamoto and Hikifune Kiryu used Shuinpa to push to the edge of the training field as early as the first time Unohana Retsu and Gosuke Shigure played against each other. They watched the two people who were fighting seriously. Hikifune Kiryu couldn't help sighing. What a powerful cutting technique. Captain Yamamoto didn't speak, just continued to watch the battle quietly. Unohana Retsu said that she is just a grandmaster with a bit of kendo, which is obviously a self-deprecating statement. As a powerful Shinigami once known as the 8,000 styles, her attainments in slashing techniques are extremely powerful. In a short period of time, several schools of slashing techniques were displayed by her. They may be sinister or bright, but they have one thing in common, that is, every blow contains extremely powerful sword pressure. If an ordinary Shinigami faced such a slash, he would definitely use all his strength to deal with it. Of course, no matter what method is used to block Unohana Retsu's attack, if it can be blocked, it is at least the strength of the captain. And Gosuke Shigure's coping was beyond Unohana Retsu's expectation. He also didn't liberate Zanpakuto, nor did he use Kid, but simply used chopping and Shuinpa to block all her attacks. Chapter 29. Slash Showdown for Unohana Retsu. Zanpakuto is not something she clings to. Her overall strength is not above Zanpakuto. Her Zanpakuto Shurikai is not suitable for fighting, but Bankai is quite suitable for fighting, but in the battle, it is obviously impossible for her to enter the state of Bankai from the beginning. So, compared to liberating Zanpakuto, in the battle nearly 1,000 years ago, she prefers to use the sealed state in her hand and use incomparably exquisite cutting techniques to torture the enemy to death. And in order to cooperate with his own chopping technique, she diligently practiced Shuinpa, Kid, White Hits, Janshuan Zage. These four abilities have been cultivated to the peak by him. It can be said that for fighting, she has reached a kind of omnipotent point. As for why she was willing to give up the name of first-generation Kenpachi, go to learn Cade, and serve as the captain of the 4th Division, of course there is a reason. Because she lost to an existence stronger than himself. In the eyes of the other party, she saw a stronger desire to fight than her own. So, in order for the opponent to fight more happily, she went to learn Cade. Cade is healing Kid. After learning Cade, she can ensure that she will not die so easily in the battle. Similarly, she can also heal the wounds of that person, so that the other party can enjoy the fun of the battle more. Ever since he was defeated by the opponent that year, Unohana Retsu has been waiting for the opponent to come to Siriidii, waiting for another fight with the opponent. But he didn't expect that in today's captain assessment, she met another strong man who surprised her. Gosuke Shigure, the same, did not liberate Zanpakuto, simply relying on the chopping technique. Shuinpa and other means blocked the chopping technique that she had honed through hundreds of battles. This surprised Unohana Retsu. Ever since, during the battle, a trace of killing intent appeared on her body involuntarily. If you look carefully, you will find that her body, under the deadly domineering costume, is shaking slightly. This means excitement. Gosuke Shigure, just show me your weight. Can you please me? The weird words came from Unohana Retsu, the captain who has always been gentle, and it seemed extremely weird. The next moment, Unohana Retsu's knife was much faster again. She is serious. Gosuke Shigure clearly sensed Unohana Retsu's change. Her expression didn't change at all. Swinging the knife, the pressure of the sword flickered, blocking Unohana Retsu's slash with ease. That's when he blocked Unohana Retsu's Zanpakuto. Unohana Retsu sticks out her left hand. Had number 4, White Thunder. A white bolt of lightning was released from Unohana Retsu's fingertips. Although it is only the lowest level of had, it is also useful in battle. White lightning strikes Gosuke Shigure's eyes. Thunder and lightning flickered, extremely dazzling. Gosuke Shigure narrowed his eyes slightly. Uno Hanaretsu took the opportunity to draw the knife. His body flickered and came to the side of Gosuke Shigure, and a sinister slash went towards Gosuke Shigure from bottom to top. Relying on instinct, Gosuke Shigure also swung his sword. Boom! Ryatsu turned into a sword pressure, and then the sword pressure collided, and then returned to the original Spirit Sun, and the Spirit Sun rolled the Spirit Sun in the surrounding air, forming a huge storm. The strong wind blew, and the robes of Captain Yamamoto and Hikafian Kiryu, who were watching the battle from the edge, were rolled. Even though the storm swept through, the two of them did not change in any way, but watched the battle seriously. Hikafian Kiryu's beautiful eyes flickered, looking extremely surprised. Although she is not the first-generation captain of Godei 13, she is definitely not young. She knows very well the true identity of Uno Hanaretsu. When a sharp knife starts to hide its sharpness, it doesn't mean that the knife becomes rusty and blunt and can't cut people. On the contrary, at this time, the knife becomes more terrifying because it hides its sharpness. No one knows when it will come out of its sheath and when it will give you a terrifying slash. Uno Hanaretsu is definitely serious. Under normal circumstances, against such a serious Uno Hanaretsu, Gosuke Shigure had better use it quickly if he has any cards. As a result, Gosuke Shigure didn't. He still uses Zanpakuto, which is still in the sealed state, to fight against Uno Hanaretsu by means of slashing. This is actually an unwise decision. Uno Hanaretsu's true strength is not Zanpakuto. It is reflected in the chopping fist and walking ghosts, especially the chopping technique. Uno Hanaretsu's slashing technique is the best in Soul Society. Countless years ago, relying on a knife and cutting technique, she killed countless powerful beings. And what about Gosuke Shigure? Even if he became the vice captain of the 11th team, he was brought up by Takeshiki, but he is not very old. Even if he was taught by Takeshiki at the beginning, it still cannot make up for the experience between Gosuke Shigure and Uno Hanaretsu difference. In front of Uno Hanaretsu, use the slashing technique to meet him and wait for him to use his axe. Hikafian Kiryu thought so at first, but now I found out that I was wrong. Gosuke Shigure actually blocked Uno Hanaretsu's chopping technique by relying on the chopping fist to walk away ghosts. However, Captain Unohana's methods are more than that. A slight smile appeared on the corner of Hikafian Kiryu's mouth. It doesn't matter if you say it is despicable or shameless, but Uno Hanaretsu's fighting style is all about it. Perhaps this has something to do with the insidious and vicious swordsmanship among the many schools of swordsmanship she has mastered. Relying on her exquisite slashing technique with one hand, she kept attacking Gosuke Shigure, and the other hand was quietly stretched out, aiming at Gosuke Shigure. In addition to the previous cast of White Thunder to confuse Gosuke Shigure's eyes, another had was cast by her abandonment chant. Hats 12 Fuwa. The orange Ryatsu thread appeared in the way of Gosuke Shigure's retreat, trapping his body and restricting his movement. Although the had performed by Uno Hanaretsu is a relatively low-level had, but the low-level had also has its advantages. That is, even if the chanting is abandoned and cast by the captain-level Shinigami, the power will not be weakened, and there is still the power of ordinary officers who can fully chant. Maybe this Ryatsu thread can only restrain Gosuke Shigure for a split second, but during the battle, sometimes a split second is enough. A hint of helplessness appeared on Gosuke Shigure's face when Uno Hanaretsu Zanpakuto slashed. While swinging the knife, during the process of swinging the knife, the liberation language came out. Destroy it. Thunder Tribulation. Chapter 30 Passing the assessment when Uno Hanaretsu's sword was about to strike Gosuke Shigure. I saw the blue electric light flickering. The had cast by Uno Hanaretsu beside Gosuke Shigure suddenly shattered and collapsed. At the same time, the speed of the knife in Gosuke Shigure's hand was as fast as ultimate. For an instant, he blocked Uno Hanaretsu's knife. Then, the lightning flashed again. Uno Hanaretsu gave birth to a strong crisis. She slashed out with a knife. However, her knife fell short. It was obvious that the figure of Gosuke Shigure was slashed, but after being hit by her knife, the figure turned into lightning and dissipated. It's an afterimage. Uno Hanaretsu's thoughts flashed, and he quickly cast Shuinpa, ready to distance himself. Gosuke Shigure slashed out. From the visual point of view, Unohana Retsu has barely avoided the knife with the help of Shuinpa. However, just when Unohana Retsu thought so, the sword that Gosuke Shigure had already dropped suddenly moved forward for a certain distance. One knife carried on Unohana Retsu. The scarlet blood splashed and fell on the ground, looking extremely bright. Hikafi and Kiryu looked at this scene and couldn't help being shocked. Captain Unohana, are you injured? This is an extremely incredible thing, but it happened right before his eyes. It's ready to end. Captain Yamamoto watched this scene and made a conclusion for this captain's assessment. Although Gosuke Shigure wounded Unohana Retsu by liberating Zanpakuto. But for Unohana Retsu, whether Zanpakuto is liberated or not does not affect her strength at the captain level in other aspects. She is enough to deal with ordinary captains just by cutting fists and walking ghosts. Gosuke Shigure was able to rival Unohana Retsu with the help of Zanpakuto before he liberated Zanpakuto, proving that he has reached the captain's level in terms of these abilities. After liberating Zanpakuto, Ryatsu, released from the helpless Shigure, also reached the captain's level. Comprehensive and firm, Gosuke Shigure already has the captain-level combat power, which is enough to be the captain of Godai 13 and bear the name of Kenpachi. As for that, during the battle Gosuke Shigure only used Shurikai, not Bankai. From Captain Yamamoto's point of view, this is not that important. The reason why there is such a saying is that the hard condition for becoming a captain is to master Bankai. That's because once a Shinigami masters Bankai, after opening Bankai, his Ryatsu will soar to the captain level and have the strength of the captain level. Conversely, if Bankai is not activated, one already has the strength of the captain level. Such a person is naturally more qualified to be the captain. Without opening Bankai, you have captain level strength. And once Bankai is turned on, the strength will only become stronger, reaching the super captain level. After Unohana Retsu's injury, Captain Yamamoto already had a decision in his mind. Seeing that Gosuke Shigure and Unohana Retsu will fight again, Captain Yamamoto suddenly pulled out Raijin Jaka from his hand. Cut and cut. There was no liberation of Zanpakuto, just a sword press, a powerful slash that passed between Unohana Retsu and Gosuke Shigure, separating the two. You don't have to go any further. Captain Yamamoto's sonorous voice sounded and fell into the ears of Gosuke Shigure and Unohana Retsu. Gosuke Shigure immediately released Shurikai, let Zanpakuto reseal, enter the sealed state, even retreated and retracted the knife. All this seemed to be done in one go. It was obvious that he had the upper hand and hurt Unohana Retsu, but it looked like he didn't want the battle was normal. Holding Zanpakuto, Unohana Retsu looked at Gosuke Shigure with a frenzy in her eyes. She was eager to have a good fight with Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure hurt Zanpakuto as soon as he liberated her. This is just Shurikai. Behind Shurikai there is Bankai. If Gosuke Shigure had cast Bankai, it would have been even stronger and would have given her a much better fight. If Godai 13 has not yet been established, or at the moment when it was just established, even if Captain Yamamoto speaks, she will ignore it and have a hearty battle with Gosuke Shigure, enjoying the fun of the battle to the fullest. Because she was born for fighting, if she can't fight happily, what fun is there in such a life? But not now. She is no longer who she used to be. As a result, Unohana Retsu could only forcefully suppress the desire in his heart and gave up the shot. Captain Unohana, are you all right? After stopping, Gosuke Shigure looked at Unohana Retsu, who had a hideous wound on his body, and asked with concern. These words fell into the ears of Hikafi and Kiryu, and there was a sense of playfulness in her eyes. The injury on Captain Unozuhua's body was obviously left by you, yet you have the nerve to ask her if she's okay. Gosuke Shigure is really an interesting person. Unohana Retsu didn't answer helpless Shigure's words. She just lowered her head and glanced in front of her. The hideous scars tore open the captain's Haori, and also tore the Black Death suit inside, and then blood flowed out, dyeing the death suit and the white Haori red. The next moment, the Zanpakuto in her hand transformed directly into a huge, flat, one-eyed ray suspended in midair. This is Unohana Retsu's Shurikai Minazuki, a well-known Zanpakuto in the medical department. But the medical department is just a facade. Saving people is just to kill better. No one would know that this Zanpakuto which has saved countless lives, has killed countless people in the sealed state, and its Bankai state is a well-deserved murderous blade. After the big one-eyed ray appeared, it immediately swallowed Unohana Retsu into it. Then, when it spit out Unohana Retsu again, Unohana Retsu was wet and her clothes were still broken, but her injuries had all healed. The medical ability of this knife, under the Shirkai state, seems to be extraordinarily powerful. "I'm fine." Unohana Retsu regained that gentle look and only then answered Gosuke Shigure's words. Captain Yamamoto waited until after Unohana Retsu healed himself, and then he said, "Gosuke Shigure, the vice-captain of the 11th Squad, was recommended by the captain of the 8th Squad, Kairaka Shunsui, to conduct a captain assessment today, except for the old man. Respectively, Unohana Retsu, captain of the 4th Division, and Kiryu Hikafian, the captain of the 12th Division. After the actual combat assessment, I believe that Gosuke Shigure has the strength of the captain level and can be the captain." Some extremely cumbersome words were spoken from Captain Yamamoto. To sum up, it means that Gosuke Shigure has passed the captain's examination and can serve as the captain. Chapter 31 Small Talk after the assessment is over. Captain Yamamoto asked Gosuke Shigure to return to the 11th team first. He needs to report this matter to Central 46. After the approval of Central 46, the captain can be appointed. This process still takes a few days. During this time, Gosuke Shigure just waited with peace of mind. As soon as Gosuke Shigure returned to the 11th team, he found many players waiting here. "Gosuke, what's the matter?" This is Yumi Kiki's Gamizawa asking Gosuke Shigure. Looking at Gosuke's appearance, he must have failed. Sanji, Kazunosuke Nido, a burly man with a big beard, joked before Gosuke Shigure could speak. He is a Shinigami who joined the 11th team very early, and he is very powerful. Kenpachi had intended to let him serve as the vice-captain back then, but he refused. According to him, he was eager to fight and didn't want to stay in the office all day to deal with team affairs. In order not to be the vice-captain, he also recommended someone. That is Gosuke, who followed Takeshiki very early. In his words, although Gosuke is young, he followed the captain very early and helped the captain deal with a lot of things. In terms of ability, he is completely capable of no abdominal distension. It was because of his booing. Gosuke Shigure was elected by the first team members and became the vice-captain. It is also for this reason that Ichinosuke Nida and Gosuke Shigure have an excellent relationship and can joke around at will. In other words, the entire 11th team, except for those new players, the relationship between the old players is quite good. This is all due to the eclectic form of Kenpachi at the beginning, and he became one with the entire team. As Gosuke Shigure's follower, Gosuke Shigure is also often teased by them. "Gosuke, don't feel bad. Even if you don't pass the captain's test, you will always be our vice-captain." After the 3rd seat, the 4th seat, a woman with a huge braid and a sparrow Madara on her face, Yamashiro, now also comforted Gosuke Shigure. "That's right, Gosuke. You are still young. It doesn't matter if you don't pass the captain's assessment now. I will help you pass the assessment and take up the position of Kenpachi in a short time. And by that time, you will still be the vice-captain." The rest of the people also comforted Gosuke. The first half of the sentence was fine, but the tone began to change later. After this sentence was finished, someone next to him refuted it. "As long as you want to be a Kenpachi, I should be the one who wants to be a Kenpachi. Do you also want to be a Kenpachi for the 13 seats? According to me, my 7 seats are more qualified to be Kenpachi. What's wrong with the 13 seats? Although I'm only the 13 seats, it doesn't mean that my strength is only the 13 seats. Let me tell you, I've started to study Bankai recently. Just give me a little bit of time, and I'll be able to master the Bankai. That when I master Bankai, it will be a breeze for me to be captain." At first, many team members were still comforting Gosuke Shigure when they saw Gosuke Shigure come back. But gradually, everyone started to digress, and it became a discussion about who is more qualified to be Kenpachi. At first, it was just a quarrel, but later they felt that the quarrel was meaningless. So they directly drew their swords and competed in the training ground of the 11th team. Gosuke Shigure shook his head helplessly, returned to the captain's room alone, and took care of team affairs. After Kenpachi was imprisoned in Mole City, he, the vice-captain, was really worried about the affairs of the team. In addition to the occasional need to go out to fight and face Minos Grande, There is also the need to take care of the affairs of the team. Right now, I have passed the captain's assessment, and if there is no accident, I will officially become the captain of the 11th team in a short time. After he became the captain, the position of vice captain became vacant. It is also time to consider the candidate for the vice captain. As for the vice captain, you don't need to be too strong. You just need to have a strong internal affairs ability. Among other things, just like the vice captain of the 8th Division, when Kayaraka Shunsui is fishing, he can help him handle all team affairs, that's it. Gosuke Shigure also doesn't expect the vice captain to be able to fight, as he became the captain of the 11th squad and inherited the name of Kenpachi. It became clear that fighting was his task. If the deputy captain can handle the team affairs and those clerical tasks well, he can relax a lot. Unfortunately, after reviewing the existing officers of the 11th team in his mind, Gosuke Shigure found that there was no suitable candidate. Although there are many women among these people in the 11th team, but to be honest, their thoughts are not delicate, and some are even rougher than men. They will join the 11th team just to fight, to enjoy fighting. The entire 11th team can be described as reckless. Even the original Gosuke Shigure is also a reckless man, but compared with these reckless men, he has a little talent in internal affairs, which is why he can serve as the vice captain. Gosuke Shigure, who has only a little talent in internal affairs, became the vice captain. It is conceivable that there is basically no hope for this group of people whose internal affairs ability is not as good as Gosuke Shigure to serve as the deputy captain. Forget it. Let's take one step at a time. Gosuke Shigure sighed helplessly and only hoped that he could meet a suitable candidate in the future. The other end, after Captain Gosuke Shigure's assessment was completed, Captain Yamamoto went to Central 46 to explain the results of the assessment. Knowing that Gosuke Shigure passed the captain's assessment, the people at Central 46 were a little surprised. They are no strangers to Gosuke Shigure. After all, he was tried by them and even imprisoned in the Palace of Confession. But they have no intention of interfering in the appointment of other captains except for the first team, which is the general captain. Since Yamamoto Genrosai says he can, it is clear that Gosuke Shigure can be the captain. Central 46 agreed to the matter, and the letter of appointment went directly to Captain Yamamoto. After receiving the letter of appointment, Captain Yamamoto came to the 11th team again. The 11th squad is completely different from the rest. The appointment of the captains of the rest of the teams is to hold a captain meeting first, and at the meeting, it is announced with the captains of the rest of the teams that there will be a meeting with colleagues. As for the 11th team, in addition to the unique succession rules of the captain, the appointment of the captain is also carried out within the team and at the meeting of all members. Vice captain, the chief captain is here. An official came to the captain's room and informed the vice captain Gosuke. Although I don't know why the chief captain came to the 11th team, but the position of captain of the 11th team is currently vacant. This matter must be told to the vice captain Gosuke Shigure. Chapter 32 9 Generations of Kenpachi. Gosuke Kenpachi, with the arrival of the captain. Soon, all the Shinigami of the 11th team were summoned. Although the captain hasn't stated his purpose yet, some of the smarter dead Shindu have a feeling that the captain must have something important to tell their 11th team when they come here. Although the team is still operating normally. But after all, there is no captain. It is true that Godai 13 each perform their own duties. Under normal circumstances, if the members of the 11th team accept the command of the other team captains, they will naturally resist. Even if they are both captains, the opponent is neither Kenpachi nor their own captain. Why should I listen to you? But the captain is not. As the captain of Godai 13, even the captains must obey his orders. Although Kenpachi is strong, he may not be the captain's opponent. It is precisely because the captain is such a strong man that the entire 11th team is in awe and respect for him. Hundreds of Shinigami from the 11th squad gathered in the huge courtyard at the entrance of the captain's room of the 11th squad. Holding a crutch, the captain slammed heavily on the ground. The dull voice echoed and fell into the ears of many Shinigami, and they all fell silent. Looking at all the Shinigami members of the 11th squad, Captain Yamamoto said loudly, "It has been several months since Kenpachi was imprisoned in Mole City, and the position of captain of the 11th squad is vacant. A few days ago, the 3 captains, including my husband, conducted a captain assessment on Gosuke Shigure, the deputy captain of the 11th team. After the assessment, It was unanimously determined that Gosuke Shigure is qualified to be the captain and bear the name of Kenpachi. With the consent of Central 46, from now on, Gosuke Shigure will officially serve as the captain of the 11th squad. As above, Captain Yamamoto spoke concisely, straight to the point, and stated the purpose of coming here. After he said these words, the Shinigami of the entire 11th team were all shocked. Really? That guy Gosuke passed the captain's test? Are you kidding me? The Shinigami of the 11th squad couldn't accept the news. When Shure Sasakaibe, the deputy captain of the first team, came here to inform Gosuke Shigure to participate in the captain's assessment, they were very surprised. They did not expect that someone would recommend Gosuke Shigure to participate in the captain's assessment. But they also don't think Gosuke Shigure can pass the captain's test. Although Gosuke is the vice captain, he is still far from being the captain. Therefore, when Gosuke came back, they all comforted Gosuke, comforted, and they quarreled again. And after the quarrel was fruitless, it turned into a fight. After that, because a few more days passed, Gosuke's participation in the captain's assessment was put aside. I didn't expect the captain to come here today. And he said bluntly that Gosuke Shigure has passed the captain's assessment, and Central 46 even issued the appointment of Gosuke as the captain. The news was shocking, and many Shinigami were talking about it. For a while, because of the arrival of the captain, the 11th team, which had finally been quiet, re-evolved into a vegetable market. Captain Yamamoto has no intention of stopping all this. After all, his mission to the 11th team has been completed, and the order of Central 46 has been read out. Gosuke Shigure came forward again after Captain Yamamoto announced his appointment, looked at the team members who were discussing a lot, and said with a smile, "Everyone, you can call me captain in the future. I don't want to hear that deputy again." Words. Unexpectedly, after Gosuke Shigure finished speaking, the Shinigami of the 11th team did not have any intention of refuting. When Gosuke was the vice captain, he had already done his duty. After Kenpachi was imprisoned in Mole City, he even supported everything in the 11th team. Now, under the appointment of the general captain, he has confirmed that he is qualified to be the captain, and it is necessary to call Gosuke the captain. In other words, it is also the successor captain who becomes Kenpachi. Many team members accepted Gosuke's succession as captain much more than Machi's succession as captain. After all, although Machi became Kenpachi, they killed their most beloved captain in front of them after all. Yashiki won the name of Kenpachi. Even the older Shinigami sighed. "Gosuke, you've grown up too." Captain Tsuruyashiki, if you were still alive, you should be very relieved. When he was still alive, he was always worried about Gosuke because he was worried that no one would take care of Gosuke after his death. He even entrusted Gosuke to Kenpachi, the mole city who killed himself before his death. Right now, Gosuke has become the new Kenpachi, which means he doesn't need anyone's attention. He is a towering tree himself. Shiba outfit is the unique uniform of Shinigami. It looks like just a piece of clothing, but when all Shinigami wear it, it means that it has been separated from the ordinary soul. Zanpakuto, the weapon owned by the Shinigami. When it comes to the order of appearance, the birth of Zanpakuto is much later than that of Zanpakuto. Zanpakuto appeared a long time ago. In that era, there was no spiritual arts academy, and various genres were mixed, but what is certain is that those who can wield Zanpakuto and exert its power are all Shinigami. Even if the Shinigami doesn't know how to cut fists and walk away ghosts. Later, until 1,800 years ago, Yamamoto Shigekuni founded Yuinjijuku, and Yuinjijuku gradually grew. Under his teaching, the profession of Shinigami changed from disorder to formality. Slashing fists and walking ghosts has become a unique ability of Shinigami, and it is also a must-learn ability. And the appearance of the deadly domineering costume had to wait until 800 years ago. At that time, the Quincy invaded the Soul Society aggressively, and the Soul Society was in danger. In order to fight against the Quincy group, Yamamoto Jinrosai formed a powerful killer group, which was the predecessor of Godai 13. In order to compete with the Quincy group, the killer group put on the Black Death fighter costume, which was specially made after the Zero Division uniform. Among them, the captain-level Shinigami, in addition to the black deadly costume, also specially put on a white Haori. Later, after defeating the Quincy division, because there were 13 top fighters in total, and the Quincy Division's invasion, it attracted the attention of the noble group of the Soul Society in order to prevent similar things from happening again. So, with the support of the nobles, Godai 13 was established. Shinigami began to officially become the maintainer of this world order. The deadly costume has also become the standard uniform of Shinigami. The reason why I say so much, it's because after Gosuke Shigure became the captain of the 11th team, the first thing he did was to get his Captain Haori. Chapter 33. The Waiter in the Dark. It looks like it's just a white feather weave. There's no need to go out and get it. But actually not so. The deadly clothes are not as simple as ordinary clothes. At least ordinary clothes cannot be repaired by themselves. And Dead Bully outfit can. This is due to its special material. When Shinigami puts on the Death Fighter outfit, the clothes can resonate with Shinigami's Reiatsu. When the clothes are damaged in battle, Shinigami only needs to inject Reiatsu into them. Not much for a long time. It can be restored to its original state. Like in the original book, Kurosaki Ichigo's deadly outfit was repeatedly damaged due to battles. You know, he is not the Shinigami of the Soul Society, so naturally he has not changed channels. But whenever he transforms into a Shinigami in the next battle, the Death Fighter outfit has been restored to its original state. There is no clothing more suitable for battle than this special one. There is no need to worry about it being damaged in battle. In the same way, it is also because the Shiba outfit will resonate with Shinigami's Reiatsu. When some Shinigami perform Zampicut Liberation to change their own Reiatsu, the Shiba outfit will also undergo some changes in appearance. Even if the ordinary Dead Bully outfit is like this, the Captain's Haori is even more unusual. This is the symbol of the captain of Godai 13. Every piece of Haori is made of extremely precious materials, and every piece of Haori has to be tailor-made. After all, there are various models of Shiba outfits. You just need to find a similar one according to the height of Shinigami. As for the captain, there are only a few in the entire Godai 13. Every replacement of the captain is a big event. It may be decades or hundreds of years, and the captain will not be replaced once. Obviously, it is not suitable for producing large quantities of Haori, and let the captain choose directly. In order to make the corresponding Captain Haori, Gosuke Shigure went to the 12th Squad. That's right, the production of Captain Haori is also the responsibility of the 12th Division. To be precise, this is the work of the Siriidii Research Institute under the 12th Division. All in all, you're going to want to find something new and interesting in Soul Society, and there's nothing wrong with most of it coming from the Siriidii Institute. The atmosphere in the entire Siriidii Research Institute is extremely gloomy, and the Shinigami inside are also some strange appearances. They have gloomy personalities. For the arrival of the newly appointed captain, Gosuke Shigure, they did not show much, because their all attention is devoted to research. But when it comes to research, the research strength of the Siriidii Institute is actually not much higher. To really wait until the technical power soars, we have to wait until Urahara Kasuke takes office, reorganizes the Siriidii Research Institute into the Technology Development Bureau, and employs unsuspecting people. After bringing out high IQ research talents, such as Kuratsuchi Mayuri and Ajin in the Nest of Maggots, Soul Society's technological strength has just ushered in rapid development. The production department of the Death Fighter is located in the deepest part of the Siriidii Research Institute, which is a dark room. Gosuke Shigure stepped into the room following the guidance of the 12th Division Shinigami. In the room, there are a lot of fabrics, and many made-up deadly costumes are stacked on the wall. Behind a huge curtain, a slender and graceful woman is sitting quietly. Behind her, there is several white skull-shaped arms stick out, and each arm has a weaving tool on it. Several arms, each performing its own duties, weave the cloth quickly. "Hi, I'm here to claim Captain Haori." Gosuke Shigure greeted each other politely. The woman paused, put down the textile tool in her hand, and said indifferently, "The recent captain changes are really frequent." Gosuke Shigure smiled lightly and did not respond to the woman's words. However, as the woman said, Soul Society's captain changes in recent years have indeed been frequent. First, Kakeashiki died, and Kenpachi, Mole City, took his place. Afterwards, Kenpachi of Mole City served as the captain for more than a year, but was thrown into infernal affairs because of the rebellion. The captain of the fifth team also changed during this period. By now, Gosuke Shigure has become the new Kenpachi. It can be said that in less than 2 years, there have been 3 captain changes. You know, this is something that has only happened in the past few decades, or even more than 100 years. The woman stood up and walked to the front from behind the curtain. Her appearance was completely reflected in Gosuke Shigure's eyes. After seeing the other party's appearance clearly, Gosuke Shigure was stunned. There was a hint of strangeness in his eyes, but he didn't say much. The woman's appearance is cold and beautiful, but besides this beautiful appearance, there are 6 weird skeleton arms growing behind her, which adds a bit of horror to her atmosphere. It can be said that this is a beautiful and a ferocious combination of women. Although in the Soul Society, in addition to human souls, there are many animal souls, there are many of those alien races who become Shinigami. But as a human being, a woman with such arms is bound to attract attention. Women don't care whether their appearance will attract attention. When she came to Gosuke Shigure, she did not know where to take out some things within the ruler and measured Gosuke Shigure's figure and other data on the spot. In the process of measuring, Gosuke Shigure's Reiatsu is naturally felt by the woman. After feeling the Reiatsu in Gosuke Shigure's body, the woman froze for a moment, and her expression couldn't help showing some emotion. Just because, in Gosuke Shigure, she felt a very familiar Reiatsu. Immediately afterwards, she realized that this might be her own illusion, and it was still different after all. So she came back to her senses and said to Gosuke Shigure, "You wait here for a while." Gosuke Shigure nodded slightly. The woman returned to the back of the curtain. Waves of Reiatsu waves emanated from the woman's body, and it didn't take long for her to make a brand new set of Captain Haori. It seems that it is because I have learned about the change of captain from the captain of Yamamoto. This time I just waited for Gosuke Shigure to come over and measure his figure, so that the Captain Haori can be made on the spot. On the back of the Captain Haori of Gosuke Shigure, with the word 11 impressively, which represents the 11th team. "All right," the woman said 2 more words, and handed Captain Haori to Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure took the Haori, and he put it on without hesitation. He said to the woman, "The clothes fit you well, and your craftsmanship is very good." The woman did not answer Gosuke Shigure's words. Gosuke Shigure smiled slightly, and asked the woman another question. "How long have you been in Siriidii?" The woman froze, not understanding why Gosuke Shigure asked such a question, but still gave the answer. "It has been many years. I can feel that you are very powerful. A Shinigami like you. Why would you stay with this power instead of being the captain?" I don't know if she felt a familiar smell from Gosuke Shigure's body. The woman answered Gosuke Shigure's question. "I'm waiting for someone." Chapter 34 Shudara Senjumaru. Wait for someone. Such an answer surprised Gosuke Shigure, and he asked again, "So have you waited?" The woman was silent and did not answer Gosuke Shigure's question. Seeing this, Gosuke Shigure could only apologize to the woman. "I'm sorry, I was rude." The woman's words suddenly became indifferent. "Captain Hanori has finished making. You should leave here." She was stiff. Just because Gosuke Shigure is the captain of Godii 13 does not treat Gosuke Shigure with kindness. Gosuke Shigure was not angry either, just smiled. "I'm leaving now. However, before I leave, I still hope that you can be happier. You're not bad looking. You look better with a smile than with a cold face. As for the person you are waiting for, I don't know if it is dead or alive, but regardless of life or death, please take care of yourself." The woman raised her eyebrows and stared at Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure turned around and left here. It wasn't until Gosuke Shigure left that the woman spoke softly. "Take care of yourself." She had heard similar words from other people, and that was more than 1,000 years ago. The other end, Gosuke Shigure was wearing the captain's Haori that had just been made. After leaving the Siriidii Institute, his expression couldn't help but feel sad. "Senjumaru, why are you still in Siriidii?" It is really a surprise to see Shutara Senjumaru, Gosuke Shigure here today. He thought that the other party had left Siriidii long ago and went to Team Zero, but he did not expect that the other party did not, but stayed in Siriidii all the time, hiding his identity. Ordinary people don't know her identity. How can Gosuke Shigure not know? After all, they were very familiar friends in their previous lives. During the creation of Godii 13, Shutara Senjumaru also played a vital role. Although she was not the first-generation captain of Godiai 13, she provided technical support for Godiai 13 at that time. The deadly costume was made by her. There are also many names of things and many equipments that were built by her, such as Soul Society's existing security level Shudara level is derived from her surname. This is actually something that many existing Shinigami do not know. Many Shinigami only know the Shutara rank, but don't know it's a surname. With the merits of Shutara Senjumaru, she has long been qualified to be promoted to Team Zero. In the original book, she is indeed one of the members of Team Zero. Palace. However, something seems to have changed now, and Shutara Senjumaru did not go to Team Zero. This made Gosuke Shigure have mixed feelings. Combined with Shutara Senjumaru's physical data before, and feeling the subtle changes in his Ryatsu time, Gosuke Shigure didn't understand who Shutara Senjumaru was waiting for. You really shouldn't wait any longer. Gosuke Shigure spoke softly. After rebirth, his Ryatsu is different from his previous life, but there are still some similarities after all. Perhaps this is why Shutara Senjumaru was willing to answer his question earlier. Because of the promotion of Gosuke Shigure to become the captain, Captain Yamamoto held another captain meeting. Gosuke Shigure and the rest of Godiai 13 captains had a meeting to get to know each other. In fact, we have known each other before. After all, Gosuke Shigure is not like Urahara Kisuke in the original book. Before he became the captain, not many people knew Urahara. He served as the vice captain of the 11th team for many years, and he also attended many captain meetings with Takayashiki. These captains all know him, but knowing is one thing. After all, Gosuke Shigure used to be the vice captain, but now he is the captain, and he is also the captain of the 11th team, bearing the name of Kenpachi. Under such circumstances, the attitudes of the captains towards Gosuke Shigure are also different. At the captain meeting, the captains were very polite to Gosuke Shigure. Some veteran captains even showed appreciation for Gosuke Shigure. After the meeting, Kayaraka Shunsui immediately approached Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke, you are really good. I have known for a long time that you can pass the captain's test and serve as Kenpachi, and you really did not disappoint me. Gosuke Shigure turned his head sideways, glanced at Kayaraka Shunsui, and said, I can be the captain. Isn't it all because of the recommendation of the leader of the Beijing band? Although it's a done deal. But to be honest, being the captain was not Gosuke Shigure's original idea. After being reborn, what he wanted to do at the beginning was to simply perform poorly and live a peaceful life. It's a pity that as the vice captain of the 11th team, he is doomed to be difficult to perform badly. Especially the timing of his rebirth is still so delicate. For various reasons, he eventually became the captain of the 11th team and inherited the name of Kenpachi. Kayaraka Shunsui said with a proud face, Well, I have always been optimistic about you, Gosuke. Now that you have become the captain, I am your recommender, so you have to buy me a drink. Gosuke Shigure nodded and said, I really should buy you a drink. Let's go. Let's drink. Kayaraka Shunsui saw that Gosuke Shigure was so bold. Of course he was not polite. Soon, the two came to the izakaya on Noble Street and started drinking directly. Have a drink. Gosuke Shigure returned to the 11th squad reeking of alcohol, because after wearing the captain's Haori, he returned to the 11th team and obviously found that the attitude of the players has changed subtly. They no longer joked with Gosuke Shigure as before, but when facing Gosuke Shigure, they also called them seriously. It is captain. Even the most carefree and eclectic players in normal times have seriously called Gosuke Shigure. This change naturally caught the attention of Gosuke Shigure. He was dumbfounded for a while, but didn't say much. For the rest of the year, Gosuke Shigure lived a peaceful life for a while. It is said to be calm, but in fact it is because there is no need to be involved in any conspiracy and calculation, and it is just to maintain the daily routine of the 11th team. What is the time of the 11th team? Naturally, it is false. The 11th team is a combat team, and their responsibilities are much simpler than those of the other teams. To be precise, there is only one duty, and that is to fight. Whenever the 11th team needs to fight, the team members will dispatch and just go directly to hack Sue to death. This matter may seem boring and dangerous, but for Gosuke Shigure, it really doesn't take any brains or effort. Thinking about it this way, Shinigami, who started as the 11th team, seems to be pretty good. Chapter 35 Vice Captain Candidates. However, the most comfortable time for this leisurely life is when he is the Vice Captain, or in other words, when Kenpachi is still in Mole City. At that time, Gosuke Shigure only had to handle team affairs. For the battle, Kenpachi, the Mole City, will be responsible. But now it is different. He has become the captain, because the position of vice captain is vacant and there is no one to share the work for him. So he has to fight and handle team affairs. Even this kind of life is still much better than the life of licking blood on the tip of a knife thousands of years ago. But Gosuke Shigure was born again after a long time. He didn't come to work from 9 to 5. If he only worked from 9 to 5, it would be fine. The responsibilities of the 11th team made him have to work overtime from time to time. Sometimes when you're sleeping soundly in the middle of the night, the hell butterfly will fly directly to your room and then notify you to go to fight. This kind of thing, after a few times, will make people feel a little depressed. So, why do people like Zaraki Kenpachi, who can serve as the captain of the 11th team, but I find it so troublesome? Gosuke Shigure couldn't help but slander. Zaraki in the original book does not seem like a person who can handle team affairs well. But the entire 11th team is thriving in the hands of Zaraki and was once called the Zaraki team. Of course, this may also be because Zaraki Kenpachi has a black heart and a little padded jacket. Although Kusajishi Ichiru is extremely unreliable at certain times, such as often pointing the wrong way, causing her to get lost with Zaraki Kenpachi. But I have to admit that at some point, she is quite reliable. In addition, under the hands of Zaraki Kenpachi, there are several reliable right-hand assistants. Madare Mikaku is powerful, even mastered Bankai, and can share a lot of battles. Ayasegawa Yumichika is brave and resourceful, and his strength is also good. Perhaps it is because of the help of these people that Zaraki Kenpachi can be the captain so easily, because he doesn't have to think about anything at all. Anyway, the affairs of the team are taken care of by others. So is there anyone available under Gosuke Shigure? The current 11th team, although because of the former Captain Kenpachi, there are many female players. But these female team members are not delicate at all. Gosuke Shigure can't count on them to share the team's affairs, especially the third seat. Under normal circumstances, the third seat of a team is the assistant of the adjutant to assist the vice captain work. As a result, the third seat of the 11th team was not good at that kind of work and never gave half a point of help to Gosuke Shigure, who was the vice captain at the time. Sooner or later, we must find a way to remove the old guy's 3 seats. Gosuke Shigure thought so. Since it can't help him share the work, what's the use? But before that, let the other party go for the time being. In any case, Nida Kazunasuke is also a veteran of the 3 dynasties. After going through Mojo Castle, and now in the era of Gosuke, it is unreasonable to change the other party hastily. More importantly, the third seat is the assistant of the adjutant. If the third seat doesn't help with the work, that's something the adjutant should worry about. Does Gosuke Shigure have a lieutenant now? Not at all. He was originally an adjutant, but now he has become the captain, and the position of adjutant is vacant. We have to put the matter of the vice captain on the agenda. Gosuke Shigure thought so. After becoming the captain, the salary is quite high, but with a salary, he ran to do the work of 2 people. Gosuke Shigure doesn't want to be such a bad guy yet. Wait, can I change my mind? Gosuke Shigure suddenly remembered. Under normal circumstances, the captain of the 11th squad is in charge of fighting, and the vice captain is responsible for handling the team's affairs. The former Gosuke Shigure was responsible for the team affairs of the team. If there is a battle, just inform the captain, and the captain will handle it. The vice captain that Gosuke Shigure was looking for earlier is also a talent who can help him deal with internal affairs and team affairs. But if you change your mind, he has found a master who can take on heavy responsibilities in battle, so he doesn't need to fight himself as the captain. Can he just stay in the team and handle some team affairs? You must know that the 11th team is a combat team, and the focus is on combat, and there are actually not so many corresponding team affairs. Gosuke Shigure had a good idea right away. Not long after, he thought of a suitable candidate. Zaraki Kenpachi. The 11th generation Kenpachi in the original book is actually very old. When Uno Anaretsu was still in charge of the first generation Kenpachi, he met him in his youth. In other words, Zaraki is actually a mighty Shinigami of millennia. However, he entered Suriidii and Godii 13 later than expected. It was not until the soul disappeared 100 years ago in the original book that some years passed after the Soul Society lost several captains. He chose to join Godiai 13 in order to pursue more exciting battles and stronger opponents. Not long after he joined the 11th team, he hacked to death the then 11th team, Captain Gui Yinching in the battle, and became the new Kenpachi. You can try to find the other party. Gosuke Shigure quickly made up his mind. Zaraki District is the 80 district of North Rakangai. Back then, when Kenpachi, the mole city, was planning a rebellion, he used the soul of the Zaraki District as the experimental material. It was later discovered by Gosuke Shigure, and the two started a great battle in the wilderness of the Zaraki area. The final result was that Gosuke Shigure defeated the mole city of Kenpachi and waited until Kayaraka Shunsui arrived, and the two of them together defeated the mole city of Kenpachi, bring back Siri. Mole city Kenpachi also chose to surrender because of his failure. After a long time, Gosuke Shigure came to the Zaraki area again, and the first thing he saw was the barren land and the scorching sun. The sun in the Zaraki area is indeed hotter than in other areas, and this is not an illusion. It is also for this reason, coupled with the barrenness of the land, that the water source here is extremely scarce. In order to compete for the limited fresh water, the souls of the entire district have launched a fierce struggle, and those who can survive here, without exception, are villains. Mole City Kenpachi chose to do experiments in such an area at the beginning. In addition to the fact that the souls here are relatively strong, and their strength is not weak after being transformed into combat power, there is no lack of reason that they are villains. Although it is only one of the 320 districts in Rakangai, Rakangai is too big, and Zaraki District alone is not small. It is still difficult for Gosuke Shigure to find Zaraki's whereabouts in it. However, he has his own way. Chapter 36, the strongest person in the Zaraki District. The Zaraki District is a mess, literally. Gosuke Shigure just came to the Zaraki area for a while, and there were several times of fighting. The souls here are not Shinigami, but they are still much more violent than the usual whole. They hold tools such as harpoons, hoes, and kitchen knives, fighting for the only water source and other souls. Some people died in the battle, turned into spirit particles, and completely dissipated. The victor, on the other hand, triumphantly enjoys the fruits of his victory and eats the steamed buns made of human blood. It's not that Siri is ignorant of what's happening in the back areas such as Zaraki, but it didn't mean anything, because resources are limited. When the soul comes to the Soul Society, it has already been assigned the area where it is located. Maybe some kind souls are assigned to the backward area and can only wait here to die. But there is no way. Who told them to be unlucky? There is no way to support more souls in the front area. These unlucky souls can only fend for themselves here. Although these areas are barren, they still have some resources after all. Self-destruction will only cause some souls to die here at most. Such a death rate will not destroy the balance between souls. Of course, it would be different if they were devoured to death by the void. The soul swallowed by the ghost will become the power of the ghost, which will indirectly strengthen the power of the Minos Grande circle. So when the ghost appears, Shinigami is needed to kill and purify the ghost. Gosuke Shigure took a closer look at the situation in Zaraki District and thought about the saying that resources are limited. Are resources really limited? It's not true. The truly limited resources refer to Rakangai. In fact, in Siri, resources are in excess. While some souls risk their lives in the last area of Rakangai for a sip of water, the nobles living in Siri are dressed in fine clothes and enjoying delicious food. The so-called lack of resources is simply because the group of nobles occupies most of the world's resources. Back then, it wasn't that there were no struggles between civilians and nobles intending to compete for resources. But as a result, civilians failed. The nobles established the magnificent Siri, completely isolating themselves from the commoners outside. Whether civilians can step into Siri depends even on whether they have the qualifications to become Shinigami. And once becoming a Shinigami, it means that he will be forced to work for the nobles. Because Godiai 13 all succumb to Central 46, which is ruled by nobles. At the end of the day, the world is in its current shape because of the 5 nobles. Nobles are the biggest beneficiaries. how difficult it is for the civilians who are latecomers to break this pattern. After flashing his thoughts, Gosuke Shigure's eyes once again turned to the winner of this weapon fight. The winner is a middle-aged man with a rough appearance. He was powerful in battle. Holding a kitchen knife, he hacked 4 people to death. Of course, he also suffered serious injuries. At this moment, he didn't care about the injuries on his body and drank the blood-stained water recklessly. Every drop of water was so sweet to him until Gosuke Shigure appeared in front of him. He looked at Gosuke Shigure warily just now. Shinigami? It seemed a little bit different. This soul doesn't seem to have seen the captain of Godai 13. He only knows that Shinigami is wearing black clothes, and the person in front of him is wearing a white robe outside the black clothes. Who are you? Do you want to rob me of water too? With a fierce expression on his face, the man asked Gosuke Shigure first. Gosuke Shigure shook his head and said, I have no intention of robbing your water source. I just want to ask you a question. What is the problem? Zaraki District, who can fight the best? Hearing this question, the man couldn't help being stunned for a moment, and then a ferocious smile appeared on his face. He said triumphantly, Do you still need to ask this question? Of course it's my uncle. Didn't you see that these people who tried to compete with me for water were all hacked to death by me? As he spoke, he also showed off his achievements. Really? Gosuke Shigure expressed his disbelief, and the next moment, his body suddenly moved. The middle-aged man only felt a sharp pain. His body flew out immediately, and then fell to the ground fiercely. A painful voice came from his mouth. Gosuke Shigure walked in front of him slowly, lowered his head, looked down at the middle-aged man and said, It seems that you are not that good at fighting. Tell me, who is the best fighter in Zaraki District? If you can't give me a satisfactory answer, I think you should know what the consequences will be. When the man heard this, his body trembled subconsciously. In the Zaraki District, the fate of the loser is not very good. He couldn't be more clear about the consequences. He quickly thought about who could fight best in the Zaraki area. Soon, he thought of a figure, and after thinking of that person, he subconsciously became afraid, and verbally, he quickly said, Wait, I know who can fight the best in Zaraki District. If it's him, he must be the most powerful person in Zaraki District. After all, a monster named after Zaraki. Over the years, countless powerful people attempted to challenge him, but were easily hacked to death by him. The other party lives in the Zaraki area. It doesn't seem like they are fighting for the only drinking water. The meaning of his life in the Zaraki area seems to be purely for fighting. Because the people in the Zaraki area are stronger, he can enjoy the fun of fighting here. Really? Then why don't you hurry up and lead the way? Gosuke Shigure looked at the man and said calmly. The man had no choice but to prop up his injured body and led the way for Gosuke Shigure in panic. He doesn't know where the monster is now, but the other party has activity tracks in the Zaraki area. If he is lucky, he may be able to find it. Men also hope that their luck will be better. Under his leadership, Gosuke Shigure soon came to a wild forest. The trees here seem to be a little dry because of the lack of water. The branches and leaves are not lush. Under the largest tree, under the only shade, a burly man was sleeping soundly. Beside him, there was a broken long knife full of tooth marks. Master Zaraki, someone wants to challenge you. Looking at the man resting in the tree afternoon, the middle-aged man felt a hint of fear and then spoke loudly. Resting in the tree afternoon, the man named Zaraki slowly opened his eyes. Chapter 37. Fighting Zaraki, okay. The man named Zaraki slowly opened his eyes. He stood up slowly, then dug his ears, dug out a lump of earwax, and flicked it aside. Then he looked at the wounded middle-aged man. You mean someone wants to challenge me? That's right, Master Zaraki. You are the most powerful person in Zaraki District, but today, someone wants to challenge you. The middle-aged man said loudly to Zaraki. There was a hint of incitement in his words, wishing that Zaraki and Gosuke Shigure would fight. That way, he could take the opportunity to escape from here. It can only be said that people are sinister. Those who can survive in the Zaraki area are either insidious or cunning or powerful. The strength of the middle-aged man is not too strong, but after being a little more insidious, it is enough for him to survive in the Zaraki area. Of course, his method of sowing dissension was too clumsy. Is it true that no one else can hear it? Well, some people really didn't hear it. Just when Gosuke Shigure was slandering from the bottom of his heart, Zaraki stared at Gosuke Shigure with burning eyes. "Well, are you trying to challenge me? It's really interesting," he said to himself, thinking of something. "I am very familiar with the clothes you are wearing. I think you will be a very good opponent. So let's have a good fight." Although many years have passed, the clothes Gosuke Shigure is wearing really remind him of a certain woman back then. It was an existence that made him feel the joy of fighting. Unfortunately, after that, he never met such an opponent again. After seeing Zaraki, Gosuke knew that the other party was exactly the person he was looking for, a strong deputy captain who could take on the combat mission. If he could persuade Zaraki to join the 11th team, with his obsession with fighting, he would undoubtedly, it's much easier. Zaraki can throw any combat mission to Zaraki, and he doesn't even need to pay him a salary. As the captain of the 11th squad, he just needs to stay in the squadron, drink tea, and deal with team affairs calmly. However, with Zaraki's temperament, it is obviously difficult to persuade the other party with words. He can only be subdued by fighting. So this fight is destined to be fought. After Zaraki finished speaking, Gosuke Shigure showed a faint smile. "If you are the most powerful person in the Zaraki area, I do have the idea of fighting with you." "That's it," Zaraki grinned, showing white fang. "Then, let's begin." The next moment, his tall body suddenly jumped out, and the tattered Zampakit in his hand was swung by him. There was no skill at all, just a simple slash, and he slashed towards Gosuke Shigure. The middle-aged man standing next to Gosuke Shigure froze, and he felt a strong sense of crisis. "If you continue to stand here, you will surely die." He wanted to escape, but under Zaraki's overwhelming momentum, his body was stiff and it was difficult to move. "I'm going to die. I'm really going to die." The middle-aged man was extremely flustered. At this moment, Gosuke Shigure beside him grabbed his sleeve and threw him aside. Although this guy was a little cautious, he still led him the way. "You shouldn't just die here." While throwing the opponent away with one hand, Gosuke Shigure held his own Zampakit with the other. Before Zaraki's slash came, his Zampakit was also unsheathed, easily blocking Zaraki's slash. Zaraki felt his knife being blocked. His eyes also brightened. "Sure enough, you are an interesting opponent." Over the years in the Zaraki area, he has been looking for opponents who can fight, but unfortunately, the people here are too weak, and as time goes by, the opponents here can't interest him at all. Even if he wants to find someone to fight, those people will take the initiative to avoid him. Likewise, he doesn't have to worry about things like water sources, because every time he wakes up from sleep, he will find that there will be drinking water near him. Of course, Zaraki didn't know, because over the years, he had created an extremely terrifying reputation in the Zaraki district. Whenever he appeared in a place, the guys who were fighting for the water source would be afraid that Zaraki would also come to fight for the water source. So when Zaraki was not paying attention, he directly divided some of the water source in advance and sent it to Zaraki. This can be regarded as a disguised offering. Gosuke Shigure smiled without saying a word, but easily blocked Zaraki's knife with the powerful Zampakit in the sealed state in his hand. Seeing that his slash was blocked, Zaraki continued to swing the knife, and he unleashed a powerful force, which made his knife extremely terrifying. The current Zaraki is not Shinigami, so the concept of Ryatsu is not very clear. But his natural Ryatsu is extremely powerful, and under his unconscious swing of the sword, there is still a powerful sword pressure released by him. A white streamer flashed. Gosuke Shigure also had to pull back a few points. It is true that Zaraki is not at his peak at the moment. Because of the battle with Unohana Retsu that year, Zaraki has already sealed himself. But even so, his strength is also at the level of a real captain. Even though he has not been taught by a formal Shinigami and has not been able to fully exert his current power, this is not the reason why Gosuke Shigure underestimated Zaraki and the enemy. After all, the lessons of the previous life have been painful enough. In the previous life, it was because of too much waves that caused Mingming to climb to the peak of Shinigami, but before the so-called plot started, he overturned and died. After finally living a whole life again, and having learned from the past, of course we have to be a little cautious. After avoiding Zaraki's knife, Gosuke Shigure also slashed out. Ryatsu turned into a sword, condensed into a crescent moon, and swept towards Zaraki. Zaraki swung his knife, ready to engage. However, the next moment the crescent-shaped sword pressure split from it again, turning into two strands. Zaraki blocked one of them, but the other left a hideous wound on his body. Puff! Scarlet blood spurted out, and a huge amount of bleeding immediately dyed Zaraki's clothes red. More blood splattered on Zaraki's face, making his already fierce face even more ferocious. But Zaraki didn't have any pleasure. On the contrary, there was a look of joy on his face. That's right, that's it, a happy battle. Happy, so happy. The wounds on his body not only did not affect Zaraki's actions and combat effectiveness, but instead aroused Zaraki's fierceness, making him swing the knife faster. Chapter 38, Solicitation. One knife, another knife. Zaraki Kenpachi's knife is completely out of order. But I have to admit that such a knife is actually quite scary. Because Zaraki Kenpachi's power is strong, because his Ryatsu is strong. The powerful Ryatsu makes every slash of his strike contain powerful sword pressure. No skill required at all. With such a knife, ordinary people would die or be disabled as long as they were hit by one knife. The so-called breaking through all laws with one force is such a thing. But to break through all methods with all strength, it also depends on who the target is. If it was Zaraki, who hadn't sealed himself subconsciously back then, Gosuke Shigure is naturally afraid of the opponent's sword. Because at that time, the opponent swung the knife instinctively, and there was no trace to be found. Even Unohana Retsu, who claims to have mastered all the kendo and knife skills in the world, was caught off guard and seriously injured when he faced Zaraki when he was a boy. Gosuke Shigure naturally had to deal with it with all his energy. After all, Zaraki in that state is a beast born purely for fighting. But the current Zaraki is far from it. During the captain's assessment, Gosuke Shigure could face Unohana Retsu head-to-head. In other words, his attainments in cutting techniques are not inferior to Unohana Retsu. At this moment, facing Zaraki's slash, he looked extremely relaxed. Even though Zaraki's knife is fast, he can always block it at the critical moment. It's nothing if it's just blocking, and when he's not blocking, he will occasionally swing a few strange knives, leaving deep wounds on Zaraki's body. More blood gushed from Zaraki's body. As before, the bleeding was profuse. This is also the characteristic of this world. If it was a normal person with such a large amount of bleeding, he would have died long ago. But people in this world don't. And there are people like Zaraki, whose wounds and blood flowed out, but more and more stimulated his will to fight, making his sword faster and faster. Ah! The sound of roar came from Zaraki's mouth. He raised the knife, swung it again, then raised the knife in his hand and continued to swing it down. He was like a wild beast that didn't know how to get tired. Not far away, the middle-aged man who was thrown by Gosuke Shigure watched the fight between Zaraki and Gosuke Shigure. He is very clear about Zaraki's strength. In Zaraki District, where there are many strong people, they are all monsters. As a result, Gosuke Shigure blocked all the attacks of that monster. Monsters, all monsters. The middle-aged man was terrified. He didn't want to stay in this kind of place for a long time, so he fled here. Gosuke Shigure and Zaraki also ignored the middle-aged man's escape. Click! A sharp slash. The tattered Zanpakuto in Zaraki's hand was directly cut off by Gosuke Shigure. And then Gosuke Shigure turned the blade in time, pointed the back of the blade at Zaraki, and sent Zaraki's tall body flying with a single blow. Zaraki was about to stand up. Zanpakuto continued to fight Gosuke Shigure with his broken hand. But Gosuke Shigure moves faster. Baika number 30. Mouth flashes 3 times. 3 golden-beaked beams appeared out of thin air, fixing Zaraki's hands and waist to the ground. On Zaraki's body, Ryatsu subconsciously exploded, ready to break free and swing the knife at Gosuke Shigure again. Gosuke Shigure came to Zaraki at the first time, looked at Zaraki imprisoned by Baika, and said, "Stop, keep going. You will die of blood." Zaraki only has offense in battle, not defense. If his attack is successful, that's all. This kind of bold and unrestrained style of playing with injuries in exchange for injuries can be regarded as a way of fighting. But all his attacks were blocked by Gosuke Shigure. As for Gosuke Shigure's attack, he didn't block all of them. One ebbs and another. Gosuke Shigure has not been injured so far, while Zaraki suffered a serious injury. Why stop? Wouldn't it be a good thing to die in battle? Zaraki was full of fighting spirit, and he didn't understand why he had to stop. Gosuke Shigure said, "It is indeed a good thing to die in battle, but if you didn't enjoy more battles, it would be a pity to die like this. I can see that you like fighting very much, and you enjoy fighting very much. So, do you want to fight more powerful people?" Gosuke Shigure's words were deeply demagogic. But for Zaraki, the words really hooked him. More battles, more powerhouses? Because of Gosuke Shigure's words, Zaraki pondered, and the original fighting spirit against Gosuke Shigure also suddenly dissipated. He gave up all resistance and just lay there, letting Gosuke Shigure's Baikut imprison him. However, his gaze fell on Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure saw that Zaraki was quiet for a while, and continued, "It's a pity that a master like you has been staying in Rakangai like this. Although there are many masters in the Zaraki area, in the final analysis, they are all ordinary. Soul. After so many years, bullying these weak souls must be boring for you. If you want to pursue more powerful opponents and more battles, why not come to Siriidii and become a Shinigami? No, you already have Zanpakuto. Technically, you're already a Shinigami, so you should put it another way and join Godii 13. Join Godii 13? Zaraki froze, not expecting Gosuke Shigure to say such a thing. A gentle smile appeared on the corner of Gosuke Shigure's mouth. Not bad. You said earlier that you were familiar with the clothes on my body. This is the Haori that belongs to the captain of Godii 13. If you feel familiar, you must have fought against a certain captain of Godii 13 back then. If you join Godii 13, you may be able to find the opponent of the year, and maybe continue to fight against the captain." Hearing this, Zaraki couldn't help but think of that woman back then. The scar on his face was thanks to that woman back then. Zaraki did not expect that the opponent would be the captain of Godii 13. Joining Godii 15, can you meet each other and fight against each other again? He couldn't help thinking. I have to say that what Gosuke Shigure said moved his heart. Before that, he only wanted to fight more strong players, and he knew that Shinigami was very powerful, but he never thought of joining Godii 13 and becoming Shinigami. To this day, Gosuke Shigure beats him. It made him understand one more thing. As long as you join Godii 13, you can fight against more powerful players. He was moved. Chapter 39. The real strong on the Lin Yi clearing. Zaraki was still lying on the ground. Gosuke Shigure has unleashed Baikut's hold on Zaraki. Zaraki attempted to swing the knife after finding himself out of trouble, but eventually gave up. Rather than fighting Gosuke Shigure, he wants to fight more powerful people. Are you sure you don't need to deal with your injury? Gosuke Shigure sat cross-legged beside Zaraki, looked at Zaraki lying on the ground, and asked. Zaraki grinned and said, "No, it won't take long anyway, and it will heal. Just like my knife, it won't take long for it to return to its original state. Although I don't know what's going on, I'm used to it." That's it. Gosuke Shigure nodded without saying anything. It is no secret that Zanpakuto that is destroyed in the sealed state or Shirkai state will recover in a short time. In the original book, Kurosaki Ichigo's Zanpakuto has been damaged many times, and it will not take long to recover. Of course, there is a case where a Zanpakuto, once damaged, can never be restored. That's the state of Bankai. Bankai is the complete liberation of Zanpakuto. After using Bankai, what is revealed is the true face of Zanpakuto. In that case, although Zanpakuto has extremely powerful power, on the contrary, if it suffers damage, it will be really hurt. Undoubtedly, it cannot be recovered. However, since the emergence of the Shinigami profession, the Shinigami who really master Bankai has always been a rare existence. So this secret is not known to ordinary Shinigami. Even many Shinigami who have mastered Bankai don't know this if they don't delve into the many secrets related to Bankai. Gosuke Shigure was lucky to know this secret because he lived a long time in his previous life and was a time traveler. Compared with Zaraki's Zanpakuto who will recover by himself, he cares more about Zaraki's physical fitness. It's really a monster. He sighed in his heart. Such a serious injury basically didn't take much treatment. After a while, part of it has healed, at least the blood has stopped. Even if there is no treatment, it may not be long before it will recover. And if it is treated, I am afraid that the recovery will be faster. No wonder Zaraki has been wandering in Rakangai for so many years and still has nothing to do. In addition to that formidable strength, This terrifying physical fitness is the foundation that supports him in high-intensity battles. It was here that Gosuke Shigure stayed with Zaraki for a while, waiting for his injury to heal. There is no other way. Who told Gosuke Shigure not to understand any healing techniques? For Kid, he's a grandmaster with some had and Bakud. But how does the Kid used to attack? Bakud is the Kid used to assist and imprison, and the Kid used to heal is Cade, which he does not know at all. As for the words of Zanpakuto, his Zanpakuto abilities are not suitable for healing either. Well, can't say that either. Occasionally, it can also be used for treatment, such as using the power of lightning to give a dying person a cardiopulmonary resuscitation and the like. But Zaraki doesn't seem to want to die, so it's destined not to be that way. By the way, if you have time, you can go to Unohana Retsu for advice and learn about Cade. Gosuke Shigure thought so. In any case, mastering a new skill is always a good thing, especially the means of treatment. After all, the 11th team is a combat team, and it is common for members to be injured in battle. It is impossible to always count on the support of the 4th squad members. In case the members of the 4th team came late, the players might die early due to serious injuries. Therefore, you still have to learn some emergency treatment methods, in case it comes in handy. No, it will definitely come in handy. Like right now, if he knew Cade, he wouldn't be here waiting for Zaraki's wounds to slowly heal. When he was fighting Mojo that day, if he knew Cade, he would not have to take him to the 4th Division with Kayaraka Shunsui to heal his wounds. Half a day passed. Gosuke Shigure was always by Zaraki's side, and he was extremely patient. Of course, there is a reason for being so patient. If it's Zaraki, as long as he can be allowed to join the 11th team, then everything is worth it. Right now, Zaraki has such powerful power without systematic Shinigami teaching. When he understands what Ryatsu is, when he knows how Shinigami fights and gradually develops the potential in his body, he will only become stronger. After Gosuke Shigure got such a powerful thug, he can also safely hand over all combat tasks to Zaraki and fish in the rear by himself. If it is Zaraki, it must be able to solve all opponents perfectly. Gosuke Shigure thinks so. In the afternoon, Zaraki finally stood up from the ground. He certainly hasn't fully recovered from his injuries, but it has recovered to the point where it can walk on the ground. For Zaraki, that's more than enough. Holding the broken Zanpakuto, he said to Gosuke Shigure, "Let's go. FK what you call Siriidi. I can't wait to fight the strong man you mentioned." Gosuke Shigure also got up, met Zaraki's gaze, and nodded. From Zaraki District to Siriidi, you need to cross a quarter of Rakangai, which is not a short distance. Zaraki has been staying in Zaraki District since he can remember. He has no name, and later he simply used the name of Zaraki District as his own name and followed Gosuke Shigure through Rakangai, heading towards Siriidi. Zaraki looked very curious as he passed the rest of the district on the way. It turns out that this is the case in other areas. It seems that it is much more prosperous than Zaraki District, but the people here seem to be weak, compared with being richer than the Zaraki area. Zaraki is most concerned about whether there are enough strong people in the other areas for him to fight. Gosuke Shigure replied, "It's not surprising. After all, the souls living in the front area don't have to fight for water and food. In such an atmosphere, they naturally cannot hone their strong fighting ability. Not all districts are the same as Zaraki District. However, in the final analysis, they are just ordinary souls. The real strong is still among the Siriidi or the Shinigami." Zaraki froze for a moment, then nodded again. That's true. He still knew that Shinigami were stronger than ordinary souls. And Siriidi is where the Shinigami gather. Chapter 40. How to become a Shinigami back to Team 11. The return of Gosuke Shigure is no surprise. But Zaraki, who followed Gosuke Shigure, immediately caught the attention of the 11 team members. Now the 4 seats Yamashiro happened to meet Gosuke Shigure returning with Zaraki. "Captain, who is he?" Now Yamashiro looked at Zaraki curiously. With a burly body and a ferocious face, he didn't seem easy to provoke. But he didn't have Shinigami's exclusive death costume on him. Although he was holding a broken long sword, Yamashiro now didn't connect this sword to Zanpakuto because it was too broken. How could Zanpakuto look like this? Without waiting for Gosuke Shigure to answer, Yamashiro now said again, "Captain, he shouldn't be Shinigami, right?" Gosuke Shigure replied, "He is the strong man I found in Rakangai. although he is not a Shinigami yet. But now, do you believe it? Once he becomes a real Shinigami, he will be very powerful. Oh, now Yamashiro was a little curious. She didn't understand, but it was just a soul from Rakangai. Even if Rakangai was considered a strong one, it was nothing in front of the real Shinigami. How can Zaraki get such a high evaluation from the captain? Her gaze fell on Zaraki, and Zaraki also felt Yamashiro Nao's gaze. Although Yamashiro Nao is a woman, but in Zaraki's outlook on life, there is no saying that you can't hit a woman. To him, now Yamashiro is a Shinigami. Death Shindu is very powerful. This may be a very good opponent, ever since a strong fighting spirit was born in him. Yamashiro now felt Zaraki's fighting spirit and was a little surprised. Although she is a woman, she is also a militant as the fourth member of the 11th team. Ever since a strong interest in fighting has also arisen. Wanted to weigh the weight of Zaraki, a powerhouse from Rakangai. It must be a bit of a means to be able to get the captain to recruit and bring him from Rakangai to Siriidii. Seeing that Zaraki and now Yamashiro were about to fight, Gosuke Shigure said, "If you want to fight and learn from each other, let's talk about it later. Anyway, Zaraki is already a member of our 11th team, and there will be opportunities in the future. Now I'm going to take Zaraki to register." Hearing this, Yamashiro Nao's fighting spirit stopped abruptly. Although Zaraki is a reckless man, he is not an idiot. He just doesn't like to use his brain to think about problems. It's not that he is slow to respond. Seeing that Gosuke Shigure has said such things, he can only give up challenging now Yamashiro. It is not a troublesome thing to register Zaraki and make him an official Shinigami. Since the establishment of Godei 13, the Yuanzajuku created by Yamamoto Jinrasai in the past has evolved into the Spiritual Arts Academy, which has become a professional institution for teaching Shinigami. Most of the dead Shindu of Godei 13 graduated from Spiritual Arts Academy, but not without exception. After all, the courses at Spiritual Arts Academy are only 6 years long. The 6-year teaching is at most just to allow those souls with Shinigami qualifications to conduct some systematic learning, know what Shinigami is, and master some of the abilities possessed by Shinigami. But in the long years, there are still many non-academic born Shinigami. Like the Shinigami before the establishment of the Spiritual Arts Academy, they were not born in the academy. In that era, many strong men founded sects and started to accept apprentices and teach them. It can be said that there were all kinds of Shinigami in that era. Yuanzajuku evolved into Spiritual Arts Academy and became the only academy today. It's just because Yamamoto Jinrasai became the final winner. Those strong competitors who competed with him either died or were subdued by him and became the founders of Godei 13. Back to business. The reason why there are many non-academic born Shinigami, it's because the barrier to becoming a Shinigami is so low. As long as you have spiritual power and can swing Zanpakuto, you can be called a Shinigami. Like Kurosaki Ichigo, he is not a grandmaster at all for Kid, nor has he studied at Spiritual Arts Academy for a day, but just because he has Zanpakuto, who dares to say that he is not a Shinigami. Zanpakuto and spiritual power are what really differentiate a Shinigami from a non-Shinigami. When the profession of Shinigami officially appeared in this world, according to the number of souls with Shinigami qualifications in this world, Ermewu Wangyue created an equal number of sealed states, and then distributed the sealed states to the entire soul society. The soul holding the sealed state, through the behavior of sleeping and eating with the sealed state, allows its own spiritual power to merge with the sealed state, and then resonates, using the sealed state as a medium to trigger the powerful power hidden in the depths of the soul, that is, Zanpakuto. Over the long years, some souls have mastered Bankai through the continuous development of Zanpakuto. There are also souls who have died. With the death of the soul, the spiritual power above Zanpakuto dissipates and then degenerates into the original sealed state. A new soul picks up the sealed state and reinfuses it with spiritual power, causing it to transform into Zanpakuto again. And the one holding the sword is Shinigami. Although after the establishment of Godei 13, the Soul Society changed from chaos to order, and all the dead Shindu began to be registered. Once they died in battle, Zanpakuto, which degenerated into a sealed state, would be recycled, and then wait until the new students of Spiritual Arts Academy were enrolled. The sealed state will be temporarily lent to these freshmen, allowing them to try to awaken their own Zanpakuto. After graduation, after they enter Godai 13, the sealed state that was originally temporarily borrowed will be officially granted to them. But in the long years, after all, many sealed states were left outside the Seriidii. By chance, they were picked up by some souls with spiritual power, and then transformed them into Zanpakuto again. These make Zanpakuto indirectly becoming the soul of Shinigami. Some of them died in Rukongai, and some were recruited by Godai 13 and became Shinigami with weaving. At the beginning of Godai 13's establishment, the Spiritual Arts Academy hadn't formed the current scale at that time, and the number of Shinigami cultivated obviously couldn't meet the needs of Godai 13. So there are many Shinigami. All the captains went to Rukongai and recruited them from the vast souls. Zaraki is the talent that Uno Hanaretsu wanted to recruit, but finally gave up. Now, though many years late. But after all, under the solicitation of Gosuke Shigure, the current Kenpachi, he came to Godai 13. Soon, Gosuke Shigure registered Zaraki. After Zaraki became the official Shinigami, Gosuke found Zaraki a set of Black Death Tyrants. There are various models and sizes of deadly costumes, but you don't need to go to the 12th team to tailor them. There are a lot of them in the 11th team. They were originally for Mao, who just came to the 11th team, posted by a graduate. It's not the graduation season right now. So I found one in the inventory that was similar in size to Zaraki and handed it to Zaraki. Chapter 41. Uno Hana and Zaraki. Now, you look like a Shinigami. Gosuke Shigure looked at Zaraki in the Death Fighter outfit. The Zanpakuto in the captain's hand has also recovered due to unconscious absorption of Zaraki's spiritual power. I have to say that Zaraki really matches the 11th team very well. Because he looks fierce, he looks like a militant. Such an image is really suitable for the 11th team. Zaraki tugged at the hem of his clothes, and wearing the death-fighting outfit made him feel different. It's not like he hasn't seen Shinigami before, and even the knife in his hand was picked up from a Shinigami who died in battle, but never thought that one day he would wear the Death Fighter costume and become a Shinigami. But this feeling only lasted for a while, and Zaraki cared more about other things than putting on the death suit. Can I go and fight people now? It's not urgent. Gosuke Shigure stopped Zaraki from challenging the strong again. Zaraki raised his eyebrows, and his face became a little unhappy. He came to Seriidii and joined the 11th team to become Shinigami, because Gosuke Shigure said that becoming a Shinigami can challenge more powerful players. But now, Gosuke Shigure has repeatedly stopped him. This made him a little emotional. Gosuke Shigure saw Zaraki's little emotion and explained to Zaraki, "You know what, Shinigami, in addition to the Zanpakuto in his hand, there are 4 most basic skills." 4 basic skills? Zaraki didn't understand, and he didn't really want to know. He just wanted to have a good fight with people now. Gosuke Shigure comforted the restless Zaraki. "Listen to me first." TCH. Zaraki pouted, but still suppressed his agitation. Gosuke Shigure continued. Slashing fists and walking ghosts are the 4 basic abilities of Shinigami. After being admitted to the Spiritual Arts Academy, the General Soul will learn these 4 abilities in 6 years, and at the same time, try to awaken them. Zanpakuto. In 6 years, it is best if you can awaken Zanpakuto, which means that you have outstanding qualifications. Such students have always been the favorites of Godai 13, but there are also students who have not awakened Zanpakuto. If one of the 4 abilities of Kenzoki is outstanding, he is also qualified to join Godai 13. Of course, if Zanpakuto hasn't awakened and can't learn his own Shinigami skills well, then there's no way. It can only show that he doesn't have the ability to become a Shinigami. This kind of students will be confiscated and temporarily lent to him when they graduate, sealed state, and then lose the eligibility to become a Shinigami. Gosuke Shigure said some irrelevant words and explained, "The reason why I said so much is that I want to tell you that for Shinigami, Zhanshuan Zogue are 4 extremely important abilities. Being able to connect the 4 abilities to the peak is not inferior to those Shinigami who have awakened Zanpakuto and may even be stronger. Although you have Zanpakuto, I can tell that you haven't mastered Shirkai. In other words, you can't count on the power of Zanpakuto. So, I'm going to ask you to go for further training and learn the basic abilities of the 4 Shinigami abilities of Zhanshuan Zogue." The so-called Janchuan Zoge refers to Zanjutsu, white hits, Shuinpa Kid. The last kid, I'm not sure if you can learn it, but for the first three, if you learn the corresponding skills, it will definitely make you stronger. Zaraki originally saw that Gosuke Shigure defeated him, and Gosuke Shigure gave him a promise that once he came to Suriidii, there would be more masters for him to challenge. He just patiently listened to Gosuke Shigure's words. At first, he was not interested in chopping fists and walking ghosts at all. But after hearing Gosuke Shigure's last words, Zaraki couldn't help but ponder. Can it make me stronger? He longs to fight against the strong, but also longs to become strong himself. If what you said is true, then I can try to learn the so-called Janchuan Zogue. Gosuke Shigure said with a smile. Don't worry, I will find you a suitable teacher. In Gosuke Shigure's mind, a suitable candidate has already been thought of. He has always been a man of action. Zaraki is also an irresistible person. Gosuke Shigure talked so much with Zaraki, and then took Zaraki directly to leave the 11th team to visit the teacher he was looking for Zaraki. 4th team. It's the treatment team. In the minds of many fan teams, the 4th fan team does not have a strong sense of existence, and the Shinigami in it does not have strong power, but they cannot deny that the 4th fan team is an indispensable fan team for Godii 13. After all, Shinigami is a profession dedicated to fighting, and it is inevitable to get injured during the battle. Once injured, it reflects the importance of the 4th team. Unohana Retsu, the captain of the 4th team, is a quiet and extremely gentle female Shinigami. In the eyes of many young Shinigami, she is a gentle big sister. Only some old and veteran Shinigami know what kind of terrifying real face is hidden under Unohana Retsu's gentle appearance. Division 4, Captain's Room. Normally, when Unohana Retsu has nothing to do, she will practice flower arrangement skills here. Her flower arrangement skills, after years of honing, can be said to be the best in the Soul Society. This is also a way of self-cultivation for her. Under the leadership of the deputy captain of the 4th Division, Gosuke Shigure brought Zaraki to the front of the 4th Division captain's room. The vice captain of the 4th Division is a taciturn old woman. She has been by Unohana Retsu's side for many years, and she seems a little taciturn because she is used to seeing life and death. Although there are not many words for a doctor, the most important thing is her treatment technique. Obviously, the opponent's ability in this area is very good, and he has shared a lot of heavy responsibilities for Unohana Retsu, so that Unohana Retsu has time to arrange flowers. The other party first went to inform Unohana Retsu, and then, after getting the answer, he came out again and said to Gosuke Shigure, Captain Unohana is waiting for you inside. Gosuke Shigure nodded. He took Zaraki into the captain's room and officially met Unohana Retsu. In the hands of Unohana Retsu, she is continuing to study her flower arrangement art, and she didn't pay much attention to Gosuke Shigure's visit, until her eyes fell on Zaraki, who was following behind Gosuke Shigure. Her eyes, which were slightly squinted, suddenly opened and closed, and a gleam of light burst out from them, and her gaze suddenly became sharp. Chapter 42 Rukangai's Uncut Jade, even after many years. Even Zaraki has grown up from the boy he was then. But Unohana Retsu recognized each other immediately. Ever since she was hurt by Zaraki that year, she has been deeply regretful. I am too weak. She saw Zaraki's desire to fight in the eyes of Zaraki when he was a boy, but because of his own weakness, Zaraki couldn't enjoy himself to his heart's content, which was something she could not tolerate. What made her even more uncomfortable was that after that battle, when she was about to find Zaraki again, she found that the other party had subconsciously sealed herself because of herself. The opponent subconsciously suppressed the power. Originally, Zaraki was so powerful that he should have become the strongest Shinigami. But because of his own sake, he became like that. From this point of view, she was really guilty. So, in order to be able to make up for Zaraki, in order to be able to fight more happily, Unohana Retsu learned Kade from Tenshiro of Kailan Temple. Kade is Kid for healing. Unohana Retsu learns Kade, but it is not to put down the knife in his hand to save the world, but to heal himself and Zaraki so that Zaraki can fight more freely. Later, she voluntarily gave up the name of Kenpachi. After the captain of the first generation of the 4th Division died in battle, She took the initiative to transfer to the 4th Division and became the captain of the medical team. It was because she felt that she was no longer worthy of the name of Kenpachi. There is only one real Kenpachi, and that is Zaraki. Over the years, she has been studying Cade while secretly waiting for Zaraki to come to Siriidii. Someone like Zaraki will tire of places like Rakangai sooner or later. He is eager to fight, and he will definitely come to Siriidii in order to fight with stronger people. Maybe on that day, she can have a good fight with Zaraki, and maybe please Zaraki. Likewise, pleasing Zaraki is pleasing yourself. However, even for Unohana Retsu, there are unexpected things. That is, Zaraki will follow Gosuke Shigure into Siriidii and come to himself. Do you want to fight me? Unohana Retsu thought so. While she was thinking, Zaraki saw Unohana Retsu clearly. He was also stunned. Some memories from that year suddenly appeared in his mind. So it's you. He recognized Unohana Retsu. In his long life, Unohana Retsu was the first time in his life to make him feel the joy of fighting, and since then in all his years in Rakangai, he has never met anyone who can make him feel happy. He is happy to fight the opponent too. Zaraki didn't expect that not long after he entered Siriidii, he would directly meet that person back then. He subconsciously prepared to swing the knife at Unohana Retsu. But somehow, it was finally restrained. Seeing that both Unohana Retsu and Zaraki showed complicated emotions one after another, Gosuke Shigure knew some of the past between them and immediately understood that they wanted to diverge. In order to prevent the two people from fighting directly, Gosuke Shigure said, "Captain Unohana, it's been a long time gone." Hearing what Gosuke Shigure said, Unohana Retsu immediately looked away from Zaraki and landed on Gosuke Shigure. "Captain Gosuke, long time no see. Is there anything you want to come to the 4th team to find me today? Looking at you, you don't seem to be injured." With a faint smile, she said such words. Sure, Zaraki had her on her mind, but Gosuke was no small thing too. When the captain was assessed that day, she was the one who personally assessed Gosuke, so she knew better than anyone how powerful Gosuke was. In terms of strength, Gosuke can definitely carry the name of Kenpachi. The more important point is, after the captain's assessment was over, she thought about it and felt that the kendo used by Gosuke and her in the battle was very familiar. It was an extremely ancient kendo that has been lost now. That somewhat familiar kendo brought back certain memories of Unohana Retsu. "I want to ask Captain Unokana for some personal matters," Gosuke Shigure said calmly. Oh, Unohana Retsu was very interested. She stared at Gosuke Shigure, waiting for Gosuke Shigure's answer. Gosuke Shigure smiled and first introduced Zaraki behind him to Unohana Retsu. "His name is Zaraki, and he is a strong man I recruited from Rakangai." Oh, Unohana Retsu naturally knew about Zaraki, but after hearing that Zaraki was recruited by Gosuke Shigure, he still asked curiously, "With the establishment of Spiritual Arts Academy, today's Shinigami are basically created by Spiritual Arts Academy, those who have been cultivated. Few people think about going to Rakangai to recruit strong people. Let them become Shinigami and join Godii 13. Why did Captain Gosuke think of going to Rakangai to recruit strong men?" This question comes from Unohana Retsu's mouth. But in fact, when she said these words, she was thinking of herself. That was nearly 800 years ago. At that time, the bloody battle with the Quincy Division had come to an end because of the captain's efforts to turn the tide. Godii 13 was first built. She was the first generation Kenpachi. In order to attract enough strong people to join the 11th team, went to Rakangai. In the end, they only saw the young man standing among a pile of corpses. When the boy saw her, he swung his knife at her without saying a word. Under normal circumstances, she can easily escape the knife of a young man who has not experienced any practice. But the fact is that she did not escape, but was left with an extremely deep scar by the other party. After that, although she started a battle with the other party, that battle made her extremely happy. But she realized the fact that she was too weak, and she was happy, but Zaraki did not enjoy the joy of fighting, which was intolerable. Because of Gosuke Shigure's words, Unohana Retsu thought about these things again. This was already the second time in a short period of time that she thought of the past. It can only be said that Zaraki really left a deep memory on her. Gosuke Shigure replied, Although the vast majority of dead Shindu today are trained from Spiritual Arts Academy, Captain Unohana also knows that my 11th squad is a combat team, carrying the task of frontline combat. The Shinigami, who came out of the academy, although the ability is also good, but after all, it lacks actual combat. But Rakangai is different, especially the souls in the back area of Rakangai. They often have to fight for a sip of water. This environment makes their combat ability extremely penultimate. And among them, the soul with Shinigami qualifications is a well-deserved gem in the rough. Zaraki is the rough jade I found in Rakangai. Chapter 43, Studying. Zaraki owns a Zampakit, although this Zampakit is not from Spiritual Arts Academy, but he can wield this knife, which means he is already a Shinigami. Also, he has great spiritual powers, but he doesn't know how to use the powers to release them and transform them into Ryatsu. But even so, when I was fighting Zaraki, I still found that he unconsciously swung the knife, and the sword pressure was generated. Captain Unohana should know how incredible this is. Unohana Retsu looked down. Of course, she knew what was going on even. She knew Zaraki's power earlier than Gosuke Shigure. However, she couldn't say these things at the moment. She clings to Gosuke Shigure's words. That means he's a born fighter. Yes. Gosuke Shigure nodded. I think so too. Zaraki's strength is very strong. He has not been trained by orthodox Shinigami. With the knife in his hand alone, he is enough to compare with ordinary Shinigami. If he can master the powerful spiritual power in his body and release them through systematic study, it may not be possible in time. It's not another captain-level combat power. Maybe he can replace me in the future and become the new Kenpachi. Hearing the word Kenpachi, Unohana Retsu couldn't help but glance at Gosuke Shigure, and she became more and more suspicious of whether Gosuke Shigure knew something. Otherwise, what Gosuke Shigure said would always bring back her memories. After thinking about it, Unohana Retsu thought it was his own illusion. After all, he had never revealed those things to outsiders, and it was impossible for Gosuke Shigure to know. She smiled and said to Gosuke Shigure, "Is it captain-level combat power?" Captain Gosuke really thinks highly of him. You know, even among Godii 13, there are very few who can become captains, not to mention carrying the name of Kenpachi. Kenpachi is the title bestowed by the Soul Society on the strongest Shinigami, who can serve as Kenpachi, even among many captains, is the best. Is the rating high? Gosuke Shigure smiled. I don't think it's high at all. Zaraki deserves that rating. Unohana Retsu also laughed, and then she asked Gosuke Shigure seriously, Captain Gosuke hasn't revealed his reason for coming yet. Gosuke Shigure was also not polite and said directly, "The first thing, I would like to ask Captain Unohana to teach Zaraki the basic abilities of Shinigami like chopping fists and walking ghosts. Let him know some tentative knowledge." Oh! Unohana Retsu was a little surprised when she heard this. She asked Gosuke Shigure. Captain Gosuke is a strong man himself, and his accomplishments in chopping, shuinpa, and white hits are extremely good. Why don't you teach Zaraki yourself? But let me, a doctor, teach you, Gosuke Shigure said. Although Captain Unohana is a doctor, in my opinion, he is stronger than many captains. He is a hero in the true sense of the female middle school, and he is a grandmaster with multiple schools of swordsmanship. His accomplishments are the strongest among the people I have ever seen. More importantly, I learned from Zaraki that Captain Unohana had an encounter with Zaraki back then and defeated Zaraki, which undoubtedly means that you and Zaraki are destined. For these reasons, I want you to teach Zaraki. For Kid, it doesn't matter if Zaraki learns it or not. After all, my 11th team tends to attack directly, and the players rarely use Kid. But for the first three, I hope Captain Unohana can give him some basic understanding. Listening to Gosuke Shigure's words, Unohana Retsu sighed again in his heart. Have I defeated Zaraki? What do you think? Only she knew that the one who really lost that battle was actually her. But Gosuke Shigure's words go so far. And Zaraki's self-seal is also due to her being a weak person. She certainly has an obligation to help Zaraki get back strong. Although for Zaraki, as long as he can awaken his instinct, he can become extremely powerful, and there is no need to learn skills such as chopping fists and walking ghosts at all. But on the other hand, for Zaraki now, if he can learn these, not a way to become stronger. Since Captain Gosuke said so, I'll try to teach Zaraki a lesson. I don't know how much he can learn. In this way, we can get rid of Captain Unohana. Gosuke Shigure thanked Unohana Retsu. Unohana Retsu asked Gosuke Shigure again. Captain Gosuke said the first thing earlier, so what is the second thing? The second thing is that I want to ask Captain Unohana to teach me Cade. Gosuke Shigure said to Unohana Retsu. If we say, the first thing is to find a teacher for Zaraki who just joined Godei 13 and teach him some common sense for Shinigami. Then the second thing is about his own private affairs. Unohana Retsu was a little curious. Why did Captain Gosuke think of learning Cade? Gosuke Shigure. Because Cade is practical, especially for someone like me. My 11th squad, as a combat team, both the members and the captain, are ready to fight at any time. Since it is a fight, you will be injured. Under normal circumstances, we can wait until the 4th team comes to support, but there are always some emergencies, and the 4th team is too late. So I thought, if I can learn Cade, can I handle some emergencies by myself? I see. Unohana Retsu understood. Now that she agreed to Gosuke Shigure's teaching Zaraki, she did not refuse Gosuke Shigure's second request. Since Captain Gosuke wants to learn Cade, I will take the time to teach you. After all, when Taianshiro of Kailan Temple taught Cade to her, he meant to pass on Cade thoroughly, because Cade is not used for Had and Bakud, but a means of saving people. It's a pity that over the years, Shinigami are still the same as before. They prefer to pursue power, learn Had, Bakud, and few are willing to learn Cade. Even in the eyes of many Shinigami, Cade cannot be used in battle, and is a kind of kid that is useless. As everyone knows, if you can learn Cade well, it will actually be more beneficial to the battle, and you can let yourself and your opponent enjoy the battle more happily. Chapter 44, Autumn Water Flows. Even though Unohana Retsu agreed to teach Gosuke Shigure Cade, that doesn't mean she's really that selfless. In addition to the reason why Gosuke Shigure brought Zaraki here, she also asked Gosuke Shigure a question. I don't know if Captain Gosuke has heard of Shusui, Lu Kendo. A question came from Unohana Retsu. Gosuke Shigure froze when he heard this question. He couldn't help but sigh inwardly. I didn't expect that after so many years of rebirth, someone still remembers Kyu Shueilu, which is really surprising, but if this person is Unohana Retsu, it seems not surprising. After all, Unohana Retsu has lived long enough and claims to have mastered all schools of Kendo, so it is not surprising that he has been exposed to Shushuilia Kendo. Did you find any clues during the captain's assessment earlier? Gosuke Shigure thought so, and on the bright side, he answered this question. I am indeed a grandmaster of Kayashulia Kendo. As far as I know, this Kendo is extremely unpopular. Up to now, only a few people still master it. This swordsmanship, I didn't expect that Captain Unohana knew about it. Unohana Retsu said, sure enough, when I was assessing you as the captain that day, I found out that the Kendo you used was very familiar. In retrospect, I just remembered that it was an extremely ancient school of Kendo, Kayashulia. This Kendo has declined with the death of the founder more than 1,000 years ago. I thought it had been lost, but now it seems that it has been passed down. Unohana Retsu was a little emotional. As for how the Autumn Water Flow sword art was passed down, Unohana Retsu didn't think much of it either. After all, the identity of that person thousands of years ago was extremely special. Although he had a lot of friends, strictly speaking, he was still a nobleman, and he was also a member of a great nobleman. After his death, some of his admirers chose to pass on the Kendo school he created. After so many years, I was able to see Kyu Shueilu Kendo at Captain Gosuke's place. It's really heartbreaking. Unohana Retsu just sighed with emotion. After knowing the origin of the Kendo he used from Unohana Retsu, the doubts in his heart were solved, and Unohana Retsu never asked similar questions again. For some time afterwards, Gosuke Shigure took Zaraki to the 4th team frequently. Zaraki learned the basic skills of Shinigami from Unohana Retsu, a follower of the 4th Division, and learned the general knowledge about Shinigami at the same time. In Zaraki's mind, Unohana Retsu is a strong man who once defeated him. He respects Unohana Retsu very much, so he has no intention of resisting Unohana Retsu's teaching. With his own strength, he doesn't mind studying seriously for a while. When Unohana Retsu taught Zaraki, Gosuke Shigure learned Cade from the vice captain of the 4th Division. Although it was not taught by Unohana Retsu himself, it didn't really have much influence on Gosuke Shigure. What he wanted to learn was Cade. Cade is also a kind of kid, and the technique of using it is similar to that of kid. The Cade mastered by Unohana Retsu is the same as the Cade of the vice captain of the 4th Division. The only difference is probably the strength of the healing ability displayed. Gosuke Shigure couldn't help thinking about Cade in the process of learning Cade from the vice captain of the 4th Division. If there are no accidents, the vice captain will not have much time to retire. Because in the memory of Gosuke Shigure, the vice captain of the 4th team was Yamada Sinusuke 100 years ago in the original plot, and then at the beginning of the plot, it became Kotetsu Aisane. The 4th Division is not a combat team, and the probability of the vice captain dying in battle is not high. Combined with the age of the vice captain in front of him, the biggest possibility is that the other party has retired honorably. Although he's slandered in the bottom of his heart, Gosuke Shigure was very serious about learning Cade. Of course, he is the captain of the 11th team after all. Apart from learning Cade, he still has to do some missions occasionally. Fortunately, Cade's study can be interrupted. Although he wanted Zaraki to go into battle immediately and reduce his burden, Gosuke Shigure chose to let Zaraki stay in Unohana Retsu to study for the future. However, the learning process is not all smooth sailing. Boom! A huge roar reverberated, and then the terrifying Ryatsu erupted, setting off an extremely terrifying spiritual storm. And part of the team building of the 4th Division was destroyed because of this terrifying spiritual storm. Then, this terrifying Ryatsu spread to the rest of the area centered on the 4th Division and was perceived by many Godai 13 captains. When Gosuke Shigure arrived at the 4th team, he saw the broken 4th team captain's room. On the edge of the ruins, a team leader had already arrived here. What happened? Gosuke Shigure looked at his old acquaintance Kairaka Shunsui and asked. Kairaka Shunsui said, "I don't know exactly what happened, I just arrived, but this terrifying Ryatsu, I am afraid that the captain performed Bankai in Siriidii." That's it. Gosuke Shigure's eyes flickered. Only he knew that this was definitely not Bankai. Although this Ryatsu is terrifying, even surpassing the Ryatsu of the normal Captain Bankai, this is not Bankai. Because this powerful Ryatsu originates from Zaraki. Zaraki, no Bankai. Even the current him, he doesn't even know Zanpakuchi Shirkai. It was Unohana Retsu's teachings that Zaraki learned some techniques for using Ryatsu. There is extremely powerful spiritual power in Zaraki's body. If this spiritual power is tapped out, it will explode with such power, and it is not surprising that such a movement will be caused. Just when Gosuke Shigure was thinking, Kairaka Shunsui said again, "Old man Sean has already come here first." At this moment, he doesn't know what to say to Captain Unohana. Maybe he is trying to understand the reason of the matter. Honestly, even I was taken aback when that horrible Ryatsu erupted earlier. Such a terrifying Ryatsu. If it is not restricted, it will cause extremely serious damage if it is shot in Siriidii. However, fortunately, this is the 4th team. If Captain Unokano is here, there shouldn't be any accidents. Kairaka Shunsui thinks so. In his mind, Unohana Retsu is such a reliable old-timer. Chapter 45 Shihun Cicada. While Gosuke Shigure was talking with Kairaka Shunsui, 2 more figures arrived here. Captain of the 2nd Division, Shihoin Kuchin. Captain of the 13th Division, Shur Yukitake. Shihoin Kanchan is very characteristic of the Shihoin family, with blackened skin. Although he is old, his skills are still agile. As for Shur Yukitake, there is nothing more to say. A sickly look. Master Shihoin, Jushiro, you are here too. Kairaka Shunsui, as an extremely experienced captain, is very popular and can say a few words to anyone. After seeing these 2, he greeted them immediately. Chunshui, what happened? Shur Yukitake asked curiously. Shihoin Kanchan beside him also looked at Kairaka Shunsui curiously. Since Shur Yukitake asked the first question, he just needs to wait for the answer. Kairaka Shunsui sighed. Although I came earlier, I honestly don't know what happened. However, according to my speculation with Captain Gosuke, there should be a Shinigami performing Bankai here. Gosuke Shigure didn't expect Kairaka Shunsui to mention himself. Why did I speculate with Kairaka Shunsui? Having said that, Gosuke Shigure nodded after Kairaka Shunsui's words. Yes, that's it. Sure, Yukitake frowned slightly upon hearing this. Kairaka Shunsui knew that his old friend had some thoughts again. So he comforted Sure Yukitake and said, "Don't be nervous. Old man Sean has arrived first." Sure Yukitake's brows furrowed again. If the captain had already arrived, then there was nothing to worry about. Not to mention, this is the fourth team. In addition to the general captain, there is also Captain Unohana. These two are here. No one can make any waves. Due to the captain's reason, several people did not step into it in the end. After waiting for a while, I saw the captain come out from inside. When he saw Kairaka Shunsui, Sure Yukitake, Gosuke Shigure, and Shihoin Kanchan, he was also taken aback. And then serious words came out of his mouth. "If there is nothing wrong, you can leave here." Captain Yamamoto directly expressed his attitude that strangers should not enter. This attitude surprised Kairaka Shunsui, Sure Yukitake, and others. But they didn't say much either. Just replied, "Yes." Although I am very curious about what happened in the fourth team, but seeing Captain Yamamoto like this, he is obviously unwilling to tell the truth. That being the case, they can only bury their doubts in their hearts and leave. Gosuke Shigure guessed some truths. It is very likely that Unohana Retsu said something to Commander Yamamoto, which led Captain Yamamoto to help keep the secret. Ordinary people don't know who the previous Ryatsu originated from. Can Gosuke Shigure not know? It is clearly Zaraki, but now the captain's posture seems to be preparing to keep Zaraki's secret, and he doesn't want others to know what is special about Zaraki. After knowing it from the bottom of his heart, Gosuke Shigure didn't say much on the surface. He left the 4th Division with Kairaka Shunsui, Sure Yukitake, Shihoin Kanchan, and others. After leaving the 4th team, Kairaka Shunsui offered to propose again. "It's rare for the few of us to get together. Why don't we go to the bar together?" Although Shihoin Kanchan is an old man, the Shihoin family has always been approachable, which is completely different from the Kachiki family. Moreover, when it comes to age, Shihoin Kanchan may not be older than Kairaka Shunsui. He just looks older. Hearing this, he immediately smiled and said, "Since it is the request of the band leader, I naturally have no need to refuse." Sure Yukitake also said softly, "I'll just have a few drinks with you." With Shihoin Kachin and Sure Yukitake agreeing, the pressure fell on Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure felt Kairaka Shunsui's gaze, so he had to say, "I was planning to practice, but you've already said that. It's a bit unreasonable not to drink with you. But I have agreed in advance. This meal, please." When Gosuke Shigure was promoted to captain that day, he was beaten by Kairaka Shunsui. Now that Kairaka Shunsui mentioned drinking, it is really unreasonable not to return this meal. "Don't worry, this meal is my treat." Kairaka Shunsui didn't mean to complain and directly agreed to Gosuke Shigure's request. In the final analysis, besides being the captain of the 8th Division, he is also the head of the upper-level aristocratic Jingle family, so he is not short of money. It's just a drink, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. Soon, the 4 of them found an izakaya, found a private room inside, and drank wine. Shihoin looked at Kairaka Shunsui and Gosuke Shigure in surprise and said, "This is the first time I know that the relationship between the leader of the Beijing band and the leader of Gosuke is so good." Kairaka Shunsui has a good relationship with Sure Yukitake, and he's no surprise. Both of these two are graduates of Spiritual Arts Academy. They were classmates back then, and later became captains one after another. They have been captains for hundreds of years. The relationship is not intimidating, but he was a little surprised that Gosuke Shigure and Kairaka Shunsui had such a good personal relationship. Kairaka Shunsui explained with a smile, "When Gosuke was still there, I often went to the 11th team to drink with him. Familiar. However, even I didn't expect that Tsukiyashiki would lose to Mojo, and then Gosuke defeated Mojo and became the new Kenpachi. Looking at it this way, Gosuke is stronger than Tsukiyashiki." Kairaka Shunsui didn't care about the impact of mentioning the dead in front of Gosuke Shigure, because he had drank with Gosuke Shigure many times, and he already knew that Gosuke Shigure had long since ignored the death of Kenpachi. When Shihoin Kanchan heard the reason, he also said with some emotion, "Kenpachi is a real hero. He will die in the hands of Mojo. Even I never expected." However, as the leader of the Beijing band said, Captain Gosuke can defeat Kenpachi Mojo and become a new Kenpachi. It must be stronger than Tsukiyashiki and Mojo. Therefore, you're also a hero. This glass of wine. Let me respect the heroes of the world. While talking, he picked up the wine bowl and toasted Gosuke Shigure directly. Gosuke Shigure showed a shy smile on his face, picked up the wine bowl, and said to Shihun Kanchan, Captain Shihun, you are welcome. Chapter 46. The friendship of the great nobles drink a bowl of wine one after another. Shihun Kanchan said with emotion again. Speaking carefully, I didn't have much contact with Captain Gosuke before. Today is the first time I drink with you. Now I know that you are also a bold temper. In the future, we can walk around more. Just move. I'm at Shihun's house. I don't have anything else, but there are plenty of good wines. Before Gosuke Shigure answered, Kaiaraka Shunsui took the lead and said, Captain Shihun, you don't care about this. We have known each other longer and earlier. You have good wine at Shihun's house, but you didn't ask me to go. Drink. Shihun Kanchan didn't show any embarrassment and said with a smile, Since that's the case, then it's settled. The leader of the Beijing band will also come to my Shihun's house for a drink. Although in terms of status, the Shihun family is a great nobleman, while the Jingle family is only a high-ranking nobleman, and their status is lower than that of the Shihun family. But Kaiaraka Shunsui cannot stand as the captain of Reborn 13, and has been the captain for so many years. Needless to say, for such a strong man, even Shihun Kanchan didn't dare to show the slightest contempt. On the contrary, the consistent carefree character of the Shihun family also makes them approachable, willing to make all kinds of strong men, heroes, and friends. After speaking with Kaiaraka Shunsui, Shihun Kanchan didn't forget to remind Sure Yukitake, Captain Jushiro will come with you when the time comes. Sure Yukitake is the only honest person here. He always drinks in small sips. Of course, it is also possible that he is not in good health. It's nothing more than waiting for a period of time to recover from the illness. Anyway, he can rest for a long time by taking advantage of his illness, and the whole Reborn 13 knows that he is not in good health. At that time, even if he is absent from the captain's meeting or something, no one will care. I'll be there. Sure Yukitake responded calmly. Shihun Kanchan nodded in satisfaction, and his eyes fell on Gosuke Shigure again. Gosuke Shigure said with a smile, Since it is Captain Shihun's invitation, I can only be respectful rather than obedient. Captain Shihun must prepare good wine, and be ready for me to drink up the good wine in your house. Shihun Kanchan smiled and said, It would be great if Captain Gosuke could finish the drinks. After all, there are too many drinks in my house, and I can't drink them all by myself. It would be a comforting thing if a few more heroes like Captain Gosuke could drink with me. Several people, in the izakaya, were drinking wine happily. Among them, Shihun Kanchan was extremely polite and generous, and even made an appointment with Gosuke Shigure, Kaiaraka Shunsui, Sure Yukitake, and others to drink at Shihun's house. On the one hand, it is because of his character that he is a bold person. On the other hand, of course, because of Gosuke Shigure's identity. Gosuke Shigure is the captain of the 11th squad, bearing the name of Kenpachi. Kenpachi is the title given to the strongest Shinigami by the Soul Society. Under normal circumstances, it is the most powerful Shinigami other than the captain who deserves this title. No matter how Gosuke Shigure became Kenpachi, but just because he has this name, it is worth Shihun Kanchan's friendship with him. In addition to these two reasons, there is actually a more subtle reason. The last reason was said by Kaiaraka Shunsui when Gosuke Shigure left with Kaiaraka Shunsui after drinking, when there were only two of them. Do you know why Captain Shihun is so polite to you? Want to hear more? Gosuke Shigure looked at Kaiaraka Shunsui curiously. Kaiaraka Shunsui explained, The Shihun family as great nobles, they are the best among the several nobles to get along with. The clansmen of the past generations have a bold temperament, and they are not constrained by their noble status. They are willing to make friends with others. Many minor nobles are willing to attach themselves to the Shihun family. Captain Shihun will befriend you so politely, not only because of your own personality, but also because of your captain status, even if you were a commoner before. But when you become the captain and have the name of Kenpachi, your identity, it's been quite different. Gosuke Shigure's eyes flickered. Of course, these are not the main reasons. The main reason is that Shihun's family is actually out of business. Captain Shihoin is certainly a strong man. As the leader of Shihoin, his strength, even among the previous leaders of Shihoin, is considered outstanding, but he is already old after all. It's fine if the successor is excellent. But the fact is that his son's qualifications are not good, and he doesn't seem to have enough ability to carry the burden of Shihoin's family. Actually, this kind of situation is not uncommon. Even if you are a nobleman, not every generation of heirs is talented penultimate, but also because of the status of nobles, their heirs must have enough strength to be able to maintain the glory of nobility, maintaining its status. Since the past dynasties, due to the incompetence of their successors, there are not a few nobles who have declined. Captain Shihoin is so willing to befriend you, perhaps because he hopes that you can give the Shihoin family some shelter when the Shihoin family is really in decline. With a strong man like you protecting the Shihoin family, even if the Shihoin family really declines because of the incompetence of the successor, it will not decline to any extent. Gosuke Shigure nodded in understanding. I see, Kayaraka Shunsui said again. Of course, I will tell you so much because I want to tell you that Captain Shihoin may have some selfishness, but he is indeed a friend worthy of deep friendship. Don't just because of his selfishness, yes. He has a grudge. Relax, I'm not such a fussy person, Gosuke Shigure said with a smile. However, Kayaraku Shunsue's words reminded him of some past events. Speaking carefully, even if you are a great nobleman who seems to have everything and has great power, it is not as beautiful as you imagined. In his previous life, he was a member of a great aristocrat, possessing everything that ordinary people did not possess. Relying on the resources of the great nobles, it is easy to have a strong strength. But as far as the ending is concerned, his ending was not good, even bleak. Chapter 47, Siriidi's Sharpest Knife. However, I'm still very curious. Why did the leader of the Beijing band tell me this specifically? Gosuke Shigure looked at Kayaraku Shunsui curiously again. Kayaraku Shunsui said, maybe it's because I'm also a nobleman. Aristocrats are also human beings. In fact, they are no more noble than ordinary people. I told you about the Maching family back then. I don't know how you would feel after hearing it. But I want to tell you that the vast majority of nobles are actually good, and you don't have to hate them. That's it. Gosuke Shigure's eyes flickered, but he didn't say much. But from Kayaraku Shuinsue's words, he still heard some hidden meanings, or some things that hadn't been brought to the surface. For example, the conflict between nobles and commoners. The contradiction between the two existed very early. In the earliest period, they faced each other for a time, but in the end it was because the nobles took the upper hand and eventually became the victor, the real beneficiary of this world. The civilians are forced to stay outside the Siriidii, struggling to survive. However, this world is not the world of nobles after all. Even if they had the greatest advantage, the nobles alone would not be able to keep the world going. They still needed the power of the common people. In order to prevent civilians from threatening their own rights and interests, the nobles made various rules to restrict the civilians. Once commoners entered the Siriidii and became Shinigami, they were forced to submit to the rules. But after all, this is just a rule made by the nobles to protect their own rights and interests. Many rules are not followed by nobles themselves, so don't expect civilians to follow them. From ancient times to the present, there are still many people who try to fight against the rules. Among them, there are many captain-level existences. Do I look like an unruly person? Gosuke Shigure couldn't help thinking. Back to the 11th team, Zaraki did not return. During this period of time, because he learned skills from Unohana Retsu, he basically lived in the 4th team. However, what happened today is obviously the work of Zaraki. Gosuke Shigure couldn't help being curious about what happened that made Captain Yamamoto unwilling to reveal the truth to outsiders. Just when Gosuke Shigure thought so. Among the 4th team, the Captain Yamamoto, who has not yet left, blocked batch after batch of captains who rushed here because of curiosity. He was the first person to arrive here after the commotion happened in Team 4 today. Fortunately, he was the first person to arrive here. After knowing the reason of the incident from Unohana Retsu, he just decided to hide today's incident from the rest of the captains to know the truth. When the last captain also left here because of his persuasion, he went to meet Unohana Retsu again. To be precise, It is Zaraki who is learning from Unohana Retsu beside Unohana Retsu. At the beginning, when there was such a movement in the 4th Division, Captain Yamamoto also thought that someone carried out Bankai in the 4th Division, and then a battle broke out, which caused the 4th Division to be destroyed. It wasn't until he met Unohana Retsu that he realized that wasn't the case. The cause of the matter was that when Unohana Retsu was teaching Zaraki, Zaraki released Ryatsu in his body. According to Unohana Retsu, Zaraki is a strong man that Gosuke Shigure, the captain of the 11th team, found from Rakangai. And Zaraki is really good, has not yet mastered Zanpakuto Shurkai, just bursting out of the Ryatsu in the body, has such a powerful force. Unohana Retsu didn't care the slightest bit about the destruction of the 4th Division team building. When talking about Zaraki's strength, she was even more complacent. Even if this power is not her own, Captain Yamamoto was also a little surprised after knowing the reason of the matter. Then he made a decision. That is, he is also teaching Zaraki. What kind of person Unohana Retsu is, he knows very well. Since Unohana Retsu said that Zaraki is so powerful, it must be true. Such a rough jade cannot be taught by Unohana Retsu alone. This has not yet mastered Shurkai, but has such a powerful Ryatsu. If he awakens Zanpakuto, masters Bankai, and learns the strongest swordsmanship and white hits abilities at the same time, he may not be able to become another top combat power of Godiai 13 in the future. What Unohana Retsu taught Zaraki inspired Captain Yamamoto to become a teacher. 1800 years ago, he founded a sect and accepted many apprentices, and later became the first principal of Spiritual Arts Academy. It can be said that under the serious appearance of Captain Yamamoto, there is actually a teacher's heart hidden. After a while, go to the old man, and the old man will teach you a more powerful sword. Oh! Zaraki glanced at Captain Yamamoto in disbelief. In his opinion, Captain Yamamoto is just a bad old man. Why can he teach himself a more powerful way of swordsmanship? Although Unohana Retsu was a little surprised by Yamamoto's captain's decision, it is a fact that Zaraki has become stronger through learning. She explained to Zaraki, "This is Yamamoto Genrisai, who is also the captain of Godiai 13. He is the most powerful soul society. Shinigami. It is your honor that he is willing to teach you. The most powerful Shinigami?" Zaraki's eyes lit up when he heard this. The most important thing is that Unohana Retsu has said so. Of course, he should not say anything to refuse. Since she has said so, I will study with you for a while. Judging from Zaraki's previous style, he is obviously a rebellious person. But this rebellious person appeared so docile in front of Unohana Retsu, which inevitably surprised Captain Yamamoto. The wily man immediately realized that there might be some stories in it, but he didn't say much. At the same time, a suggestion was made to Unohana Retsu. Zaraki's Ryatsu is too powerful. He can't control such a powerful Ryatsu well. If you have time, you can go to the 12th Division and ask Captain Hikafian to make some Ryatsu restraining devices so that he can better master your own Ryatsu. Unohana Retsu nodded. I will. Afterwards, the captain left the 4th team, and about the incident of the 4th team, it didn't take long before there was a more official statement. That is, Captain Unohana is trying to create a new kid recently because he did not control Ryatsu well, which caused the 4th team to be damaged. Such rhetoric is of course unconvincing, but it can't stand the verification of the captain. Ever since, even if there are other secrets in it, everyone has to believe it. Of course, having said that, this is only the statement given to Godiai 13 by the captain. When facing Central 46, Captain Yamamoto gave another set of rhetoric. Central 46 is composed of nobles from the Soul Society. Although they have power, they're not too powerful. The matter of the 4th team is not big or small. But today, the team building of the 4th Division can be destroyed, and tomorrow, there will be wild people daring to attack Central 46. This kind of thing must be observed. Fortunately, Captain Yamamoto gave a satisfactory answer in time. The destruction of the 4th squad was not a bad incident, but an accident. It was Unohana Retsu who was teaching a Shinigami who had the appearance of a strong man. If taught properly, that person would become the sharpest knife in Godiai 13. Chapter 48 Emergency. Captain Meeting. Since the establishment of the Central 46 system, in the long years, The members of Central 46 have changed how many times? The captain of Godei 13 is also constantly changing. There are only two captains who have survived since the founding of the Godei 13 team. One is the General Captain Yamamoto Genrisai, and the other is Unohana Retsu. Don't look at the current Unohana Retsu as the captain of the 4th team, but before she became the captain of the 4th team, her identity was not that simple. She was first-generation Kenpachi, the captain of the 11th team of the first generation. These secrets are unknown to ordinary people. But how can the members of Central 46 not know? Since this is something that Unohana Retsu has decided, there is General Captain Yamamoto Genrisai as a surety. This matter, just like that, came to an end. Of course, Captain Yamamoto said so. Zaraki, since then, has also been the focus of Central 46. If the other party can really become the sharpest knife to protect Siriidii in the future, such a person must be taken care of and cultivated well. When Captain Yamamoto reported Zaraki to Central 46, Unohana Retsu also took Zaraki to the 12th team. Hikafi and Kiryu made a set of Ryatsu limiter for Zaraki. The Ryatsu limiter, made by Hikuribo Kiryu, is different from the Ryatsu limiter made by Kuratsuchi Mayuri in the original book. It is not blindfold. Rather, it is a well-made bracelet. On the wrist, there are several gear adjustments. The highest gear can suppress Zaraki's Ryatsu by 80%. The lowest level is to completely lift the restrictions. This is somewhat similar to the limited seals performed by Shinigami above the Vice Captain level to the present world. Because the Shinigami Ryatsu of the Vice Captain level and above is too powerful, the world as a tool cannot carry such a powerful Ryatsu in this world. So this kind of Shinigami at the level of level need to seal Ryatsu when they go to the present world. Only when there is an unavoidable situation can the limited release be performed. Generally, the power of a Shinigami above the Vice Captain level in the present world can only be used in the Soul Society. 1/5 in Zaraki, because Ryatsu is too powerful, had to be sealed in Siriidii. In addition to the Ryatsu restriction device, Hikafi and Kiryu also considered that Zaraki Ryatsu is too powerful, and his spiritual sense, that is, his ability to perceive spiritual power, is extremely weak, and it is difficult to delicately control spiritual power, so he made a set to assist him in perceiving spiritual power. Installation. This is similar to what Kuratsuchi Mayuri made in the original book. By putting Zaraki's hair into small bundles, each bundle has a small bell that can sense spiritual power, and use the small bell to help Zaraki perceive spiritual power. Although Zaraki has some opinions about changing his hairstyle. But after seeing his new look clearly, Zaraki's dissatisfaction disappeared again. Because he found that his new look is not bad. It is quite in line with his aesthetics. As Gosuke Shigure brought Zaraki into Siriidii, recently, Siriidii has become more lively because of Zaraki, either directly or indirectly. However, this enthusiasm is also temporary. Along with Zaraki learning Kendo, with Captain Yamamoto, he was kicked out of the team by Captain Yamamoto within half a day. All the excitement turned into a farce, and it came to an abrupt end. No one knows why Captain Yamamoto made such a big fuss. Obviously, at Unohana Retsu that day, he still believed that Zaraki was a rare jade in the rough, so he came up with the idea of teaching Zaraki himself. But it was after he taught Zaraki himself. In just half a day, Zaraki was expelled. What happened in it, no one knows. All in all, when Zaraki was kicked out of the team by the captain had no interest in Zaraki. Fortunately, Unohana Retsu is as patient as ever, and she still teaches Zaraki. Since Zaraki brought the Ryatsu limiter, he will not destroy any buildings because of the sudden explosion of Ryatsu. When Unohana Retsu was teaching Zaraki, Gosuke Shigure also came to the 4th team to learn Cade from time to time. The days of ease passed slowly. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last long. I haven't waited for Gosuke Shigure to drink wine from Shihoin Kuchin's house. A sudden accident happened. Bang, bang, bang. There was a crisp knocking sound, and how butterflies fluttered among the various teams. The voice of Captain Yamamoto sounded along with the sound of Hell Butterfly and fell into the ears of the captains and vice captains. All the team captains and vice captains come to the team immediately to hold a captain meeting. There is something extremely urgent. Usually, Captain Yamamoto said something was extremely urgent. so it was obviously not a small matter. Ever since, among the fan teams, Gosuke Shigure, who had just found new fun recently, was flipping through a magazine called Siriiti Correspondence Collection and could only put down the magazine in his hand angrily and went to the first team. Although Zaraki has improved a lot recently, Gosuke Shigure does not intend to make him the vice captain just yet. After all, promotion requires a process. Such an overnight achievement will inevitably make the rest of the team members have opinions. Therefore, the 11th team still has no vice captain. When Gosuke Shigure came to the first team, the captains of the other teams came with their own vice captains, and Gosuke Shigure seemed more and more alone. Gosuke Shigure has little interest in the vice captain of the rest of the squad. Even the vice captain of the 4th Division who taught him Kade, and Sure Sasuke. The vice captain of the 1st Division, who has been in the position of vice captain from the beginning of the team's establishment until now. There was only one person who made him take a closer look and was a little concerned. Vice captain of the 5th squad, Aizen Suk. Aizen is the newly appointed vice captain of the 5th team. With the promotion of the former vice captain Hirako Shinji to become the captain, Aizen, who is the 3rd seat, has become the vice captain because of his outstanding ability. He wears glasses and looks very elegant. At this time, he looked younger and immature than he in the original book. I don't know if Aizen has started his various experiments during this time period. Gosuke Shigure glanced at Aizen, then looked away, thinking to himself. When Gosuke Shigure glanced at Aizen, Aizen didn't care. He followed behind Hirako Shinji with his head slightly lowered, looking very respectful. His eyes were deep, and no one knew what he was thinking. All the vice captains at this moment only regard Aizen as a follower of Hirako Shinji, and they will never know what kind of great things this man will do in the future. Chapter 49, Those Who Try to Break the Balance. Gosuke, how are you doing these days? Jushiro, aren't you recovering from your illness? You're here too. Captain Hiko is getting more and more beautiful. Long time no see, Captain Shin. Before the captain's meeting, the captains of Godii 13 certainly wouldn't just wait without saying a word. After all, they're all colleagues, and their purpose is to protect Siriiti, maintain the order of the Soul Society, and protect the balance of the 3 realms. After the captains met, they inevitably greeted each other. Although they are both in the Siriiti, in the past, there were not many opportunities for all the captains to gather and meet each other like this. After everyone met, they exchanged a few pleasantries one after another. Among them, Kairaku Shunsui, who is a social butterfly, can chat with anyone. In addition to his long time as captain, there is also his status as a nobleman. As an aristocrat, he can naturally talk to the captains born of great nobles such as Shihoin and Kachiki, and he is easygoing, never complacent about his status as a nobleman. And he is also very popular among the captains born in the common people. Small talk all the way. Go through the long corridor. Finally, they came to the spacious team headroom. This is the conference room where captain meetings are usually held. Since Gosuke Shigure took over as the captain of the 11th team, it was the first time to participate in the captain's meeting, which inevitably seemed a bit novel. After coming here, the 12 captains stood up one after another, and their respective vice captains stood behind the captain. Gosuke Shigure is alone because he has no vice captain. After waiting for a while, Captain Yamamoto came here with heavy steps, and the crutch in his hand tapped lightly on the wooden floor. Boom! A dull voice sounded. All the captains became serious. Based on what the captain said when he summoned many captains to hold a captain's meeting, today's captain's meeting may not be as simple as a routine meeting. Captain Ijo, tell me, leaning on crutches, Captain Yamamoto's eyes fell on Hikifune Kiryu, motioning for Hikifune Kiryu to come and tell. Hikifune Kiryu stepped forward, and the 2 groups in front of him swayed, bringing a wave, which was extremely eye-catching. As a normal man, many captains in the field couldn't help but glanced a few times. Gosuke Shigure also glanced at it, and couldn't help but think of the scene when Hikifune Kiryu first appeared in the original book. At that time, she had been promoted to Team Zero for more than 100 years. She has also changed from a beautiful woman with a strong figure to a tank with an even stronger figure. Press F to enter tank mode. Of course, she will turn into a tank when she has to, in order to accumulate Ryatsu to meet the consumption of cooking that contains soul essence. Although there is a reason, But just because she did not hesitate to destroy her perfect figure for this matter, Gosuke Shigure respects Hikoshi Kiryu as a talent. Hikoshi Kiryu naturally didn't know Gosuke Shigure's wild thoughts. She stepped forward and told everyone the reason of the incident. Through my 12th team's monitoring of Hueco Mundo, the present world, and Soul Society, I found that recently in the present world the number of ghosts that appear is getting smaller and smaller. No, not only in this world, but even the number of ghosts that were newly born in Hueco Mundo recently is getting smaller and smaller. As soon as this remark came out, several veteran captains immediately frowned. They obviously knew the seriousness of the matter. As for some younger captains, they expressed doubts. Hirako Shinji, the new captain of the 5th Division, immediately asked curiously, "Miss Kiryu, the number of ghosts has decreased. Isn't it a good thing? Hoi devours souls and destroys the stability of the world. One of the duties of our Shinigami is to get rid of Hollow." Behind Hirako Shinji, Aizen was also very curious after hearing Hikoshi and Kiryu's words. At this moment, Aizen, although he is also very strong, has not reached the level of the future after all. Similarly, he is completely ignorant of many secrets, but he is still very smart. After hearing Hirako Shinji's words, Hikoshi and Kiryu sighed. "Hirako, before answering your question, I have to correct you a little bit. Shinigami's duty is not to get rid of the void, but to purify the void. Su is a fallen soul, and the Su killed by Zanpakuto will be purified and turned back to the original soul. Some weak Su will turn into souls and come to Rakangai and become one of the residents of Rakangai 1. And the powerful Su, after purification, because his spiritual power is too strong, his soul will go to hell. And on this issue, I have to talk about the relationship between Soul Society and Hueco Mundo. I know, in the eyes of many of you, Hueco Mundo is a place of chaos and disorder, and the hollows in it are extremely evil existences. They are always threatening the Soul Society, the world, and there are many Shinigami and Hollow died in the battle. But since the establishment of Godei 13, we have only been purifying those transboundary voids, but never thought of completely destroying Hueco Mundo. All this is for balance. Balance. Hirako Shinji was puzzled. The vice captain Aizen behind him stared. He consciously heard a very crucial clue. If you can figure out the reason, maybe you can get one step closer to the truth of the world. Miss Kiryu, I don't understand. What is balance? Hirako Shinji became more and more curious. Hikoshi and Kiryu still needs to explain. Boom! There was another dull sound of crutches hitting the ground, and Captain Yamamoto's words echoed in Hikoshi and Kiryu's ears. Captain Hikoshi and Kiryu heard Captain Yamamoto's reminder and immediately understood that he couldn't say anything further. If you explain to everyone what balance is, then it is inevitable that you will talk about the reason for balance, and then trace back to the origin of this world. Talking about the King of Spirits is undoubtedly an active violation of taboos. If it's just in front of the captain, it's fine. Although the existence of Team Zero is a secret, many captains still know about it. But in today's captain meeting, many vice captains were called over. These secrets are not for the vice captains to know. Hence, Hikoshi and Kiryu resolutely closed his mouth. Captain Yamamoto took Hikoshi and Kiryu's words and continued. Captain Hikoshi said earlier that when we Shinigami kill Su, it is actually a purification of Su. Those who are profoundly empty will be thrown into hell. You don't need to know the reason for all this, but you just need to know that we Shinigami are maintaining the order and balance of this world. However, recently, through the monitoring of the 12th Division, it was found that some remnants tried to break the balance. Chapter 50. Annihilating the Quincy Division Destroyer. Captain Yamamoto did not explain what happened to Su after Shinigami killed Su like Hikoshi and Kiryu, nor did he explain what balance is. He directly stated the purpose of calling many captains and vice captains here. That is the Quincy Master. Hearing these 3 words, all the captains and vice captains in the field all became condensed. At this moment, more than 700 years, nearly 800 years have passed since the battle that year. However, in the teaching materials of Spiritual Arts Academy, Quincy is still mentioned from time to time, and they are regarded as negative teaching materials. That's what it says in the textbook. About hundreds of years ago, the Quincy was ambitious and aggressively invaded the Soul Society, intending to subvert the 3 realms, break the balance, and destroy everything. In the end, Under the command of Captain Yamamoto, the Quincy was defeated by Shinigami. Captain Yamamoto guards the Soul Society. Then, the team that followed Captain Yamamoto to protect the Soul Society was renamed Godei 13. Godei 13 is an organization established to protect the Soul Society and protect the world order. It turned out to be them? It's really troublesome, Kaiaraka Shunsui said in a deep voice. Didn't the captain already kill the leader of the Quincy? Captain Yamamoto said in a deep voice. The old man did kill the leader of the Quincy back then, but the Quincy did not perish because of this, and the remaining Quincy fled to the present world. Originally, the old man didn't put them in his eyes, but it was just a little leftover. However, what the old man didn't expect was that after hundreds of years of reproduction in this world, this group of remnants actually has the potential to revive. Anyone killed by the Quincy Master will turn into spirit particles and completely dissipate between the heaven and the earth, and will no longer turn into the original soul. If things go on like this, the number of souls in the world will become less and less, and the whole world will be destroyed. It would be completely out of balance. The decrease in the number of ghosts in this world and Hueco Mundo is now confirmed to be the work of the Quincy Master, after Captain Yamamoto told the reason for the incident. Immediately, orders for Central 46 began to be issued. It was unanimously determined by Central 46 that the existence of Quincy has seriously threatened the stability of this world. Their existence has disrupted the balance. Therefore, Central 46 issued an order to Godei 13 to annihilate Quinn. Hearing the word annihilation, the faces of all the captains changed slightly, and they were awed by it. Some vice captains thought that they had heard wrongly, but they never expected that Captain Yamamoto would say such words. Just because Central 46 believes that Quincy is a threat, it is too cruel to completely erase the group of Quincy from the world. Someone wanted to speak, but when the words came to his lips, he still didn't say them. Those who can become the vice captain will naturally not be so naive. You know, this is a decision made by Central 46. Even if they express their opposition, it will not help. They just couldn't accept the annihilation of entire groups of Quincy's. After Captain Yamamoto read out the order of Central 46, he explained his tasks to the major teams. Among them, the first team, in this case, naturally will not be dispatched. The second squad is the criminal army, which is responsible for executions and assassinations. This unit is mainly aimed at all kinds of illegal activities in the Soul Society, and it is impossible to deal with the Quincy Division. Not to mention the third team. It is an emergency reserve team to deal with emergencies, and at the same time to supplement the dead members of the other teams during the war. The first three teams are standing still, and everything is business as usual. When it comes to the fourth division, Captain Yamamoto has just begun to distribute tasks. Squad 4 is ready to treat Shinigami injured in battle at any time. After all, it is necessary to annihilate the Quincy. Even after the great battle that year, the Quincy has been seriously injured. But after all, hundreds of years have passed since that great war, and after hundreds of years of reproduction, no one knows how much strength the current Quincy group has recovered. In the process of fighting the Quincy, Shinigami will inevitably be injured and even die. The purpose of the establishment of the 4th Division is to deal with the casualties that occurred during the battle. The 5th Division is ready to transport the wounded and rescue the injured team members. For the 6th team, just skip it. The 6th team is the Noble team, and it is the representative of the nobles in Godei 13. If the 2nd team is the sharp blade in the hands of the nobles, then the 6th team is the strongest shield in the hands of the nobles. The meaning of their existence is protect the interests of the nobility. The 7th Division is the Imperial Guards of the General Corps. It can be regarded as directly belonging to the 1st Division.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.